or 20 billionaires in Africa down, that does not guarantee you that will push the 1.3 billion people up.
Okay, I see. What's your advice to a young person out there who still has that push? They would really want to become a billionaire.
So the push is amazing. And I've said this before in my interviews. You know, to become a billionaire, there's no elevators, no escalators. It is lazima upande ngazi. You have to take the stairs. And it is a step-by-step process, you know. And when you do push, you know, don't think that, you know, I get up in the morning and I'm not tired. I'm equally as tired as you are. But you just have to push yourself out of it and, you know, hustle.
Right. Biggest regret?
My biggest regret is not spending time with my family while I was chasing money.
Thank you for listening to the interview. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can find many more episodes of the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including ones with Sierra Leone's First Lady, Fatma Bio, former Sudanese leader Aisha Musa, and Sung Ali from the International Organization for Migration. Until next time, bye for now.
From the BBC.
Good morning, Manitoba. Hello, Winnipeg. I'm Julie Buckingham, and you are listening to Information Radio on CBC. 89.3 FM, 990 AM. On the app, or perhaps you're watching on YouTube. Welcome to Friday morning. The current temperature outside our studios at Portage in Spence in downtown Winnipeg, 13 degrees. Another evening of showers, and they are back again this morning. Lots of lingering puddles. They shouldn't hopefully be slowing you down too much on your commute. And with the power mostly back on in the city of Winnipeg, your lights should be working as well. But if you do have trouble in traffic, we certainly want to hear from you on our commuter line. Are you wearing red today? Canada plays its first game at the World Cup this afternoon. He's wearing red. Let's say hello to the team. Abby Adeyemi got the memo wearing his Canada jersey. Senior tech covering the weather. Darren Morash is our YouTube producer. Sierra Sanders is the show's director and will take those calls on the commuter line. And our show is on until 8:37. Let's get things started heading to our news center. Your headlines. Good morning, Heather Wells.
Good morning. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada. That letter requested repayment, saying she had been overpaid 20 cents on her CPP disability pension. It came about 20 months after Leanne Doumbia started receiving her monthly payment. We're going to hear what the usual method is when it comes to how much money you can be overpaid and then asked to pay it back. We'll hear why she is so frustrated. And to talk about frustrated, a sold-out crowd did not get treated to a win at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers home opener last night. Hamilton Tiger Cats were the spoilers, beating the Bombers 37-27. We'll hear from Zach Caleras coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you, Heather Wells. Yeah, that was a bit of a tough one, but in the end, they tried to make a game of it at the end. So we'll continue to follow the Bombers and all of your news from your news center. And while some Manitobans have been devastated by floodings, others, well, they've been making a bit of an extra splash. A 16-year-old says Oakbank was covered with water, so he decided to take a swim. But coming up, we'll hear why taking a dip in that water may not be the best idea. Those stories and much more after we're back with you following World Report.
On cue. What if you could go from not writing songs at all to having songs with billions of streams in about 2 years? That's what happened to Audrey Hobart. She'll be here to tell you about it and working with her best friend, the pop star Gracie Abrams.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald.
The eyes of the sporting world are on Canada. In just a few hours, our men's national soccer team takes to the pitch in Toronto for a historic clash against Bosnia-Herzegovina. It marks the first time Canada has ever hosted a match at the FIFA World Cup. The team is hoping for a major milestone today, looking to secure their first ever World Cup victory in front of a passionate home crowd. The CBC's Thomas Dagla has our top story.
Are you ready, Toronto? At the FIFA Fan Festival site in Toronto and in bars and living rooms across the country today, Canadians will be watching soccer history.
That finally Canada is hosting the Cup, so we're excited to have it in our city.
We have an amazing team that's probably going to win this thing, but we'll see. That's just me.
The Canadian team has never played to a draw at the Men's World Cup, let alone scored a win.
The Canadians are going to show up and they're going to be loud. Hopefully they're going to push us for a good result.
Midfielder Stefan Eustáquio may be soft-spoken off the pitch, but today he'll be battling as team captain.
We want to get a win. We know that Bosnia wants the same thing. It's going to be a very tough game.
In that lead role, Eustáquio is replacing superstar Alphonso Davies, who's still recovering from a hamstring injury. Head coach Jesse Marsh says Davies underwent an MRI and the results were encouraging.
I wish we had 2 more weeks so that Alfonso would really be back and all our guys would have a little bit more underneath them. But at the same time, man, we are ready to play some games. After today's opener against Bosnia, the Canadians travel to Vancouver for 2 more matches with the hope of advancing to the next round for the first time ever. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Renowned British artist David Hockney has died. He rose to fame in the 1960s, becoming a global art icon with his vibrant, shimmering paintings of Southern California swimming pools. Considered one of the most influential pop artists of his generation, Hockney's masterpieces would later command tens of millions of dollars at auction. His publicist confirmed Hockney died peacefully on Thursday. David Hockney was 88 years old. Iran is pushing back against Donald Trump's claims that the war is over. Last evening, the U.S. president announced a peace deal, but Iran's foreign ministry is calling that completely speculative. In a Canadian exclusive, CBC News is reporting from Iran with permission of the government. It imposes restrictions on international journalists. However, the Iranian government does not check our material before it's published or broadcast. The CBC senior international correspondent Margaret Evans is in Tehran.
One of the night gatherings in Tehran, mainly hardline pro-regime rallies taking place in neighborhoods across the city most nights. Chants of death to America a given. They began before the April ceasefire, during the height of the U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign against Iran, which has now killed more than 3,000 people, according to the Ministry of Health here. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has urged people to continue the night demonstrations, although he still has yet to appear in public. Many in this crowd don't want negotiations with Washington at all. Samira Yusufinejad is a 40-year-old mother.
I would like the war to continue until we are the winners, and that until Israel is annihilated.
She does say if the supreme leader were to command it, she would accept a deal. Many other Iranians are hoping for an agreement, like this woman from a neighborhood not far away who calls the gatherings a nuisance.
Those who are pro-government, pro-Islamic Republic, they are bothering us a lot. Noise pollution and also a lot of traffic. You're lucky to be from Canada, a Canadian.
She asked not to be identified for fear of repercussions, a reminder of the stakes involved for those who oppose the Iranian authorities here. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Tehran.
Prime Minister Mark Carney has landed in Paris. He and his wife, Diana Fox Carney, arrived this morning to open a busy European diplomatic tour. Carney will meet with French President Emmanuel Macron first, then head to Ireland for a series of talks. After that, it's back to France for the G7 summit. President Trump will also be at that meeting, which gets underway on Monday in Evian.
Canada's new National Food Security Strategy promises to make groceries more affordable. Prime Minister Carney unveiled the multi-billion-dollar plan on Thursday, saying the investments will address the high costs plaguing shoppers across the country. But some food economists warn there is very little in the way of immediate relief at the checkout. Sam Sampson reports.
At this Calgary grocery store, some shoppers are already changing how they fill their carts because their dollar just doesn't go as far.
Everything's gone up because I'm a pensioner and you only get so much.
It's causing a lot of stress, especially as the kids, they're growing.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's new food strategy promises to ease those worries.
Because a country that can't feed itself or fuel itself or defend itself isn't truly sovereign.
The four main goals are increase grocer retail competition by funding more places for independent grocers to buy food, boost processing power in Canada so we don't have to rely on other countries to process goods, invest in greenhouses and vertical farming to grow fruits and veggies year-round, and cut red tape to get food on shelves faster.
The actual pace of action is glacial.
University of Saskatchewan Agriculture and Resource Economics professor Stuart Smythe says the announcement recycles ideas Ottawa could have acted on years ago, and ultimately they're focusing on long-term solutions.
I don't see anything in the strategy that's going to be able to have an effect on grocery prices in the next 6 months. And really, that's what a grocery strategy should, in part, try to achieve, is that balance between how do we address the short-term crisis, but also provide some incentives for longer-term investment.
Other food economists say the strategy will help fix an outdated supply chain system, but agree it won't slash prices at the checkout anytime soon. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
The United States Supreme Court has blocked an execution in Alabama using nitrogen gas. The High Court voted 6-3 to reject a last-minute appeal from the state. Lower courts had already ruled that using nitrogen gas is unconstitutionally cruel. Inmate Jeffrey Lee was convicted of a double murder in 1998. The jury voted for a life sentence, but a judge overrode that decision and handed down the death penalty. Alabama banned judicial overrides in 2017, but the change was not retroactive. State lawyers say they will continue to fight to carry out the execution. As we count down the last few hours before Canada's World Cup opener, we know that major sporting events like the FIFA World Cup bring massive crowds. Part of ensuring those fans go home happy is planning for all manner of health risks, everything from infectious illnesses to extreme heat. The CBC's Amina Zephyr reports on how public health officials in Toronto and Vancouver have been preparing behind the scenes.
We know we wanted to step up our surveillance a little bit more because we're going to be welcoming the world.
Dr. Michelle Murty is Toronto's Medical Officer of Health. While outbreaks are rare, this year's gathering comes at a tense time amid a growing Ebola outbreak in Central Africa. But Ebola isn't near the top of her list of threats.
We have never seen a case of Ebola in Toronto or in Canada, so we have a lot of other things in place.
Welcome to the Health Security Operations Center.
Rebecca Katz heads up a surveillance lab for host countries at Georgetown University in Washington. Katz says the most likely infectious disease threats spread through the air, like in coughs. For that, Katz and her team tap into disease surveillance data from wastewater.
Looks like it can pick up measles in wastewater 5 to 7 days before the first patient actually shows up in an emergency department. It's really powerful.
Dr. Murty calls the heads up useful.
So we're looking for norovirus, measles infection, and mpox infection.
In Vancouver, public health teams are also on the lookout for foodborne illnesses. Dr. Mark Lysician serves as a medical officer of health at Vancouver Coastal Health.
We're also worried about non-communicable disease risks, things like heat, wildfire smoke. How will that impact the games?
Amina Zephyr, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Buckingham. This is Information Radio on 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the CBC Listen app, and on YouTube. Friday morning and 13 degrees in downtown Winnipeg. We've had more recent showers, so the roads are definitely wet. We will find out from Abby your full forecast, and again, there are still some warnings in place for the north. This hour on the show, the U.S. president is going back and forth on his directives on his war in Iran. 1 minute threatening to bomb, the next saying a deal is close. We will speak to a Washington analyst to interpret all of those details. Canada has a new national food security strategy. Later on Information Radio, expert analysis on what that means, if anything, for Canadians who are struggling to afford their groceries right now. Well, now let's head over to our news center and join Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, doctors are raising concerns after a highly specialized physician handed in her resignation. Dr. Alessandra Cassano-Bailey is one of only a handful of interventional radiologists in this province. Doctors Manitoba says specialists have raised concerns about a lack of resources and staffing, and more could leave the province if nothing changes. Documents obtained by CBC News show before a Winnipeg woman died after giving plasma, the machine used on her had issued 5 alerts. One of these alerts meant plasma collection should have been terminated. Health Canada inspectors say that did not happen. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells in our news center this morning. And as we arrived here this morning, I was starting to get a few little water droplets on the windshield. Since then, again, we've had some more showers. Abby Adeyemi has been tracking your forecast.
Yeah, I see showers across the province, Julie, this morning. And if you look up north, the region still dealing with more like the province. I'm just going to say it is severe weather splits. The warning still active in the northern part where we have this massive storm system dumping more rain in that part of the province. We're talking about 50 to 80 millimeters of heavy rain will be coming towards the northern and northeastern parts of the province. It started yesterday and it's going to extend through Sunday, and this would definitely be affecting roads, and you might notice localized flooding in some parts. So take it easy while those soggy conditions continue up north. Down south, we're still seeing milder conditions. It's going to get windy at some point. We still have rain showers in the mix for the southern region, and even showers today. But for Winnipeg, we started the morning with some showers. It's still wet outside. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds today. Current temperatures hovering near 13 degrees. Expect a breezy day ahead as we climb to a high of 17 today. And if you look at other regions in the south, you're going to see 10s and 13 degrees and daytime highs climbing towards 18 degrees. So while up north, that's where we have our wet conditions with that storm systems. We're looking at highs that will struggle to get to between 4 and 11 degrees. But for Winnipeg, wet stats, we see a mix of sun and clouds, and we get to 17 today.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sierra Sanders is here, show director and monitoring the commuter line, and it looks like most of the power is back on in Winnipeg, so that's good for the lights. We know there's still lots of closures outside the city as a result of all of that flooding, but is it all quiet so far?
So far, things are pretty quiet. I know when I was in the director chair on Wednesday, it was a little bit
not quiet.
It was not quiet. It was a little bit of a trying time. But so far, what I've heard, I know there were still some outages in the city of Winnipeg yesterday, but it sounds like Manitoba Hydro has restored most areas with power. But if that's not the case, I'd love to hear about that. We are still seeing some highway closures, obviously, due to some flooding happening. So I'll quickly run through those. So Highway 7 there from Highway 67 to Toulon is closed. So that's in the Stonewall area due to the amount of rain that they got there overnight a couple of days ago. So that highway is still closed. As well, we are still seeing, because of flooding on Highway 10, both directions near Tamarack Creek, east of Swan River, are also closed. And that is in the Minnetonka area, where they are still recovering as after the storm that they faced earlier this week as well. So still a couple of highway closures, but so far your commute here in the city is looking pretty good. But if that's not the case and that does change and something pops up, I'd love to hear about it. Give me a call. That number is 204-788-3093.
15 minutes after 6 o'clock, this is Information Radio. And on Wednesday, a 16-year-old Oak Bank boy didn't hit the streets. He took a dip in the street. And when I say took a dip in the street, he literally went swimming. And after that severe weather rolled through Manitoba this week, some decided, like Nolan Law, to make the most of it, doing laps because he is a triathlete. And he also saw others wakeboarding behind a truck on that same water. Despite the fun they had, experts say swimming in floodwater can be risky. Christopher Love is the president of Wavecrest Aquatics and has a PhD in the history of swimming. He spoke with the CBC's Faith Fundal on Up to Speed yesterday.
Let's talk about that video that's gone viral. It was the last thing they played on the National last night. What did you think when you saw it?
Entertaining, yes. Probably got lots of likes, but as you said in your intro, incredibly dangerous. There's lots of hidden risks in floodwater, and really don't want people doing that out there. Because it's potentially putting them at risk. But more importantly, if they get hurt or they get stuck somewhere, it's going to put rescuers at risk as well.
I mean, when I saw it, I thought fun. And I don't know if I'm just getting old and getting cranky. I thought, oh, that could be so dangerous. When we say dangerous, I mean, what are we talking about here? What level of risk in context do you think exists?
It depends on the exact location. But for cases like this that we've seen in the past, we've seen people in previous flood situations here in the province of Manitoba, kids, but also adults in water-filled ditches. You have potentially very high water flow going on, a current that is created. We've had people sucked into culverts and unfortunately die due to drowning because they couldn't get above the surface because the force of the water was just so strong holding them under.
And those things may not be incredibly obvious from the surface.
Exactly, because with the floodwater conditions, you tend to have a lot of dirt, debris, or even just the amount of water flow obscures what's below the surface. So you can't see if a culvert cover, like a screen, because many of the culverts nowadays do have screens to help prevent those types of tragedies. But that could be blown off by the flood. There could be an open manhole cover from the flood water just rushing so quickly through an area that it's popped it off or dislodged it. So people can end up in very, very dangerous circumstances very quickly and not even see that danger in advance because the water is just preventing it. I mean, even things like some of the road washouts or road cuts that we've seen in the past few days in the province here, if you got water flow that's going really, really quickly, it can undercut the road around that. So even if you're not going in, but you're standing a little ways back, but you're taking video of it, some people can end up in the water and in danger really, really quickly.
Right. For some folks right now, it's difficult to avoid passing through floodwater because it's all around. What advice do you have for people when it comes to navigating these waters safely or navigating around these waters safely?
You've got it right there. We want people to navigate around. If your local authorities have closed a road, closed a bridge, etc., follow that. They're doing that for safety reasons. We know from areas that get flash flooding or overland flooding on a more regular basis, thinking places like Australia, southern U.S., they often use a phrase of, if you see water over the road, turn around, don't drown. Because the amount of force that floodwater passing over a roadway can have it may not be immediately obvious, but can be really forceful. And you don't need a huge amount in a lot of cases to float a car or a small light truck. You just need enough to cover about a half to 3/4 of your wheelbase, and then potentially your vehicle is going for a ride in the wrong direction.
And a quarter of the wheelbase, that doesn't look like a lot of water.
No, I mean, that would be for extremely, a heavy and strong water flow, but it also depends on the exact size, make, model of your car. The lighter your vehicle, the more easy it is for it to be thrown off and into a dangerous circumstance. And it's even less water required for a person who's walking on foot or something into that flood water. You really only need enough water that's going to cover over your ankles about halfway up your shins, And if the water's flowing fast enough, it's going to knock you down and sweep you away before you realize what's happening.
Let's talk this through. So say you're in a vehicle, you think the water flow isn't that bad, or it's not as deep and the water flow isn't that bad. You drive through it because, you think it's safe, and then you either get stuck there or you get swept into deeper water. What do you do?
Well, in that case, we would hope you would prevent it by not doing it. But if you're in that situation, you need to get out of your vehicle right away, because depending on exactly where you are, it's potentially going to submerge. And once your vehicle's submerged, it's very, very hard to escape. Dr. Gordon Giesbrecht, Professor Popsicle out at the University of Manitoba before he retired, he did a lot of research on this, and he came up with the phrase SWOC, S-W-O-C. That is, you need to get your seatbelt off, you need to get your window open or broken, you need to get your children out, so on top of the vehicle if it's still above the surface, and you go oldest to youngest for the children so that they can help each other, and you're last to make sure that all of them are out. And that set of steps means you can escape. Most vehicles will stay at the surface for 30 seconds to a minute, minute and a half, depending on exact weight and how quickly the water is moving. So you do need to move quickly, but you can think about it, and you can prep ahead by having something like a commercial window breaking tool. There's quite a few of them on the market for emergency purposes that'll allow you to smash out your side windows if you need to, but also realize even with modern power windows, in the vast majority of vehicles, even if you hit the water, those electric windows are probably going to work for 20 to 30 seconds after the car gets wet. So if you're got your head on and you're thinking straight rather than panicking, you can follow those steps and get yourself out of the vehicle. And then if it is staying stationary, stay on top of it. Try to get your cell phone out then and call for help. If it is submerging right away, then unfortunately you're going to be stuck in a situation where you need to potentially swim or go with the current and see where it takes you. And hopefully it's going to land you on dry land.
Christopher Love, president of Wavecrest Aquatics, joining the CBC's Faith Fundal on Up to Speed.
On the topics that matter, your voice should be heard.
It looks like this is maybe a one-day blip when farmers across the province need hot and dry.
Radio Noon is where you can voice your take.
In general, it's harder to find a job even if you're educated.
I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. From 12:15 to 1 p.m., Radio Noon opens the phone lines on one important topic.
When I was 5 or 6, my parents gave me seeds and helped me plant them. That was probably close to 70 years ago. And here I am still gardening.
It just brings everyone together. Radio Noon's call-in segment, 204-780-0893. We want to hear from you weekdays on CBC.
23 minutes after 6 o'clock, and Donald Trump says the U.S. and Iran are close to a deal to end their war. The American president says an agreement could be signed as early as this weekend. Iran's foreign ministry, though, says nothing has been finalized. It all comes after Trump threatened massive airstrikes against the country, but then said was canceling them. For the latest, we are joined now by Paul Waldman, a columnist for MS Now. Good morning.
Morning.
Recap what's happened since Trump withdrew the threat that he was going to hit Iran. Anything new overnight?
Well, we are getting reports that there may be the outlines of an agreement that could be signed as early as this weekend. Now, the problem is that we have been down this road many times before, where Trump says, Trump makes some kind of a threat, and then he withdraws the threat and says he's doing so because we're about to get a deal. And then the Iranian government says, well, actually, no, there isn't a deal. So we have to wait to see what the Iranian government says. But what we have heard is that there may be a 60-day ceasefire during which the Strait of Hormuz would be opened to ship traffic, and in exchange, Iran would get some kind of sanctions relief, and the question of their nuclear program would be kind of put off with some sort of vague assurances about what they might or might not do in the future. So it might happen, but we just don't know yet.
What is the Trump administration's current strategy for trying to wrap up this war?
Well, the trouble is that they don't really seem to have much of a strategy. I think if judging by what Trump says and does, it still seems that he is caught in the idea that force can win the day. And if he makes enough threats and drops enough bombs, that will force Iran to come to the negotiating table and basically give the U.S. everything it wants and demand from the U.S. nothing in return. And that just hasn't proven to be true. It turns out that Iran was capable of absorbing much more punishment than I think the American government thought. And now we get in this cycle where the threats aren't working, the bombing's not working, but there is no apparent other means by which Trump thinks that he can resolve this. So a lot of it is just dependent on how frustrated he gets, how much he wants to leave, and how much his own political situation worsens for him to be able to finally say, I'll do anything to get out of this, in which case he would make some concessions and Iran would make some concessions, and that would be the place where we ultimately get to an agreement.
So remind us just how many American military personnel are deployed to the Middle East and how much equipment is tied up there.
Well, there are about 50,000 American troops in the region, which is around 10,000 more than there is ordinarily. So that's a lot of people. But, the U.S. is a colossus bestriding the world. We have hundreds of military bases spread out all over the world. And among other things, that has given Iran targets that it can shoot at. It's not that they have done so much damage to those American bases and American personnel, but it shows their resilience. That's a message that they get to send to their own people, to other countries. And, so we have a big military presence there, the U.S. does, but that doesn't mean that short of a ground invasion that nobody's willing to tolerate, that actually means that this war can come to an end. And Trump himself said that the other day that he thinks the American people wouldn't stand for a ground invasion, even though he implied that that's what he would like to do.
Pakistan, Kuwait been mediating the peace deal between the U.S. and Iran. How effective has that been?
Well, we haven't really gotten very far with it. And I think that ultimately you have to get the two parties in the room. Having interlocutors just kind of slows everything down. Messages have to be passed. You really need, if you're going to hash out the details of any kind of a meaningful agreement, you have to have representatives of the two countries there talking to each other. We may get some kind of a temporary sort of kick the can down the road a little bit agreement now, even though it would be very significant if it opened the Strait of Hormuz. But if you're going to come to some kind of a final agreement, it's going to take a lot more than that. And that's why when during the Obama administration, when they signed the original Iran nuclear deal, it took about 2 years of negotiations to get that settled. And now we're trying to do it through third parties in a much shorter amount of time. So you can see why maybe we're not making so much progress.
And the G7 leaders summit is next week in France. What do you expect the talk will be amongst the leaders with Trump and the Iran war? We've got about 30 seconds here.
Well, I'm sure they're all going to be urging him to get it resolved as quickly as possible because everyone around the world is suffering because of this war and the energy crisis it kicked off. But the problem is Trump doesn't like them very much. If Mark Carney or Keir Starmer or Emmanuel Macron tells him that they want him to do something, that may make him even less likely to want to do it. So I think that that may not help matters what comes out of the G7 meeting.
Lots more still to come on this. Paul Waldman, thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot.
He is a columnist for MS Now, joining us from Washington, D.C. The federal government is investing $1 billion over the next 10 years to expand and build food terminals in Canada. Still to come on Information Radio, we'll get analysis on a food supply chain expert on what he thinks about that situation. If you have something to tell us about in traffic, we certainly want to hear it. You can call us now. Sierra is ready to take your calls, 204-788-3093, as we are still dealing with some wet roads after some very early showers. And speaking of showers, mix of sun and cloud today. There is the possibility of more rain here today. Windy in the city of Winnipeg, high of 17, 13 degrees. Still rainfall warnings for Thompson and Churchill. Lots more still to come on Information Radio. CBC News is now.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells. Doctors say more needs to be done to retain specialists after a highly specialized physician gave her notice. Intervening radiologist Alessandra Cassano-Bailey is leaving the Health Sciences Centre. A group of cancer specialists raised concerns in an internal letter saying more staff could leave if conditions don't improve. Dr. Kelly Keita is section head of hepatology at the University of Manitoba.
When you try and recruit highly specialized physicians to Manitoba, that's a difficult chore. We have to train locally and we have to retain whoever we have because to replace individuals, very difficult.
Sorry about that. Microphone issues. I will tell you what Doctors Manitoba says about the exit of this radiologist. They say while there has been record recruitment figures, too many specialists are still leaving Manitoba. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada. That letter requested repayment, saying she had been overpaid 20 cents on her CPP disability pension. It came about 20 months after Leanne Dubia started receiving monthly payments.
My stomach dropped because it said I had a repayment. And so it's like anytime you have a repayment, when you're on disability, obviously you're not living the luxury life. So I was a little bit worried.
Now, according to Federal Financial Administration Act, Employment and Social Development Canada may write off overpayments of 99 cents or less for a select number of programs, including CPP. Dumbia says she never received any indication about why her debt wasn't written off. Documents obtained by CBC show before a Winnipeg woman died after giving plasma, the machine used on her had issued 5 alerts. One of these alerts meant the plasma collection should have been terminated, but Health Canada inspectors say that did not happen. 22-year-old Rodiat Alabadi died in October 2025 after giving plasma at the Griffles Collection Centre on Taylor. Dr. John Eunice, the province's chief medical examiner, says she died from an enlarged heart.
It's certainly possible that some of these subtle changes that ordinarily wouldn't have been harmful could have been harmful in her, but there's just no way to prove it at post-mortem examination.
Health Canada finished its investigation in March, finding no connection between the death and the donation process. Manitoba Hydro has restored most power outages caused by damage from those violent thunderstorms earlier this week. The utility says by last night, a total of 245 customers were still without power, including about 100 in Winnipeg, and crews will reach those today. And a caution, Hydro says these may not be the last of the outages. Damaged equipment not yet detected, or weakened trees and branches falling on lines may still result in power disruptions in coming days. Well, Winkler's first Pride event is this weekend, and it starts tomorrow morning in church. Kevin Drudge is pastor at Covenant Mennonite Church.
In the gospel story, we find Jesus welcoming all sorts of people, especially people who were marginalized and silenced by the power structures of the day.
Winkler's first Pride event continues at the Triple E main stage in Winkler Parkland. Canada's World Cup team has a big event today, facing off against Bosnia-Herzegovina. It'll be the first game to be played on Canadian soil, and the game takes place in Toronto. And that city is buzzing with plenty of festivities and anticipation.
We live here, so there's just so much excitement.
I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It doesn't happen every year that you get the World Cup in your country, so...
Totally excited. I'm not even a soccer fan, but the energy that it's bringing to the city and just the whole excitement of the transformation of the neighborhood is exciting.
The men's team will be looking to clinch its first ever win at a FIFA World Cup tournament. Kickoff is at 2 o'clock this afternoon, Central Time. To the Stanley Cup Finals.
Carolina's going to take a 3-2 lead back to Vegas.
The Carolina Hurricanes now just one win away from hoisting the Stanley Cup following that 4-2 victory over the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 5. Game 6 goes Sunday night at 7 Central. And it was a sold-out crowd for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers home opener.
Running to the end zone, reaches touchdown, Winnipeg answers.
Nick Dembski in the first quarter there on TSN, putting the blue and gold on the board, but it would become a struggle. In the end, the Bombers lose to the Hamilton Tiger Cats 37-27. Winnipeg quarterback Zach Collaros.
Dembski running to the end zone, reaches touchdown, Winnipeg answers.
Offensively, we just left points on the field. Obviously it starts with me turning the football over there in the second quarter, going into halftime. Can't do that. That's at least 3 points for us. There's a couple, obviously, when you look back at the film and you can see a lot of it on the sideline, you wish you had back that could lead to points, but it's something that we got to, take and figure out and get better.
And Winnipeg has time to do that figuring out. The Bombers now enter a bye week. They return home to face the Edmonton Elks on Thursday, June 25th. You can find the latest news and details on that Bomber loss on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather Wells. I believe 15 sellouts in a row. So Bomber fans will be there when the team is ready to play again after that bye week. Time to check the weather. As I look out, it's drying out a little bit right now, Abby, but it's been a wet start to the morning once again.
Yes, Julie, one of those mornings where the sunrise already happens, but it's buried like behind those thick clouds out there in the city. It was peeking through earlier, but
it was beautiful until it wasn't.
Now it's gone. And if you look at the northern part of the province, we still have the warnings in place. This massive storm system continues to dump more rain into northern and the northeastern part of the province, and this would continue into the Sunday, through Sunday, bringing really road washouts and flash floodings across a lot of areas. So look out for those conditions. Well, for the southern region, it's milder. It's kind of a cool morning. We're noticing some breezy conditions. We started with a few showers. Now there's a mix of sun and clouds across most of the regions. In the Red River Valley region here, Winnipeg, we're looking at, we started the day with this few showers. Now we're seeing a mix of sun and clouds. A slim chance of showers still hiding behind those cloudy conditions. 12 degrees at this time, western breeze. We're heading for a high of 17, then we cool to about 8 degrees later tonight. Across the southern regions from Morden towards Port-la Prairie, we're seeing cloudy conditions also. 12 degrees at this time, only crawling towards 18 degrees. We're seeing a few showers there. Brandon towards Nipawin is actually enjoying some sunshine at this time, 10 degrees, aiming for a high of 18. While for the Dauphin region, tracking it towards the Roblin area, we're seeing cloudy conditions there at 11 degrees. You will see highs around 15. Then we go into the Interlake region, Gimli and nearby. We're getting few showers there, cloudy, 12 degrees. We're stretching your high to be around 17 later in the day. Then we cross over into the central part of the province. The Par Flin Flon, you're locked with light rain at this time, hovering near 7 and 8 degrees. You peak at 11 later. Norway House also sits around 7 degrees with light rain spotted there. You get to 10. Thompson Gillum seeing light rain at 5 degrees. We'll really struggle to get to 7 today. While for the Lynn Lake area, you're also getting light rain, 4 degrees right now, expecting a high of 10. Tudula Lake, just spared from those warnings. We have temperatures around 4 degrees there, though it's cool. Daily highs will only be around 6 degrees. Then for the Churchill and York region, we're tracking just 1 there, barely getting to that 0. Light rain and a high of 4 degrees today. So it's more like a split condition. Heavy rain still continues in the northern part into Sunday, while the southern regions, we're just going to keep seeing these cloudy conditions, and then you spot the sun, and then you wonder, is that rain? While it's sunshine outside, you will notice that today also. Expect some breezy conditions, a mix of sun and clouds. Highs would crawl to get to 17 today.
Yeah, we gave a degree back in the last hour, so it's about a dozen now here in downtown Winnipeg. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Sarah Sanders is back, our show's director, and also keeping tabs on the commuter line, which I haven't really seen you on this morning, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, no, you probably haven't seen me through the glass answering the phone too much because, yeah, it has been pretty quiet so far on the commuter line this morning, not hearing about any major situations or backups so far this morning. So to me, it sounds like things are moving pretty smoothly after the last couple of days we have had on the commute due to road closures, due to lights being out. I think things have started to move along a little bit more smoothly as things start to turn back to normal as people recover from those early week storms. But I'm still here. If something does pop up on your commute, I'd love to hear about it so I can let folks know. Give me a call on that CBC commuter line. The number's 204-788-3093.
20 minutes now before 7 o'clock. Crystalia Ramlakan is here with the business report. Good morning. And markets rebounding. Give us the details on that.
Yes, that's right. So Canadian and U.S. stock markets rallied on the hopes of a deal between the U.S. and Iran to end the war in the Middle East. And U.S. stocks jumped to their best day in 2 months on hopes that oil would start flowing globally again. And world shares today have advanced in the wake of these big gains on Wall Street. The Dow was up more than 900 points. The Nasdaq climbed 640 points. And Canada's main stock index ended trading higher yesterday as well. So gains in the basic materials sector helped the S&P TSX climb more than 500 points, and oil prices have tumbled by about 4%. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump is claiming there was a breakthrough in talks on ending the war, but Iran is pushing back against Trump's claims that the war is over. Obviously, this is a narrative we have seen before, so we're going to have to wait and see what actually happens. And speaking of the markets, investors are awaiting the debut of SpaceX, Elon Musk's rocket company, on Wall Street today.
Well, let's stay on that. I know some people in my circles really interested in what's going to happen here. So what are investment experts saying about that SpaceX IPO?
Yes. So you know what? Some of the hottest names in the U.S. technology sector are gearing up to go public this year and at eye-popping valuations. So like you were saying, SpaceX is expected to make its market debut today. And large AI firms OpenAI and Anthropic have also filed preliminary documents to make their shares go public as well in the future. But financial experts say while splashy IPOs can offer short-term upside for retail investors, they often lag the broader market over the long term. And investment experts suggest letting new stocks trade for 5 to 7 months before investors consider jumping in so they can properly evaluate the company's financials and other factors. And they say IPOs can see strong day one performances, but attribute much of that to investor hype. And many recommend investors prioritize companies with track records of delivering returns instead. But yeah, both institutional and retail investors are expected to gobble up the 555.6 million shares going up for sale at $135 a piece. And we know Musk is already the world's richest man, and he could become the first trillionaire with this. And Musk says the company is going public because it needs money to fund its ambitions of putting satellites and data centers in space.
As you explained that, you used words like gobbling and delivering, which makes me think about food. And of course, ordering food to wherever you are right now is easier than ever. What else can you tell us about that?
So DoorDash is going to let users place orders by uploading photos to the app. So, no more tapping that plus sign next to your favorite dish if that was too tough for you. The delivery app is launching a new AI chatbot called Ask DoorDash that can fill your cart via photos of grocery lists, recipes, or other images that you choose to upload. And customers can also use voice or written prompts to place orders without scrolling. And the bot can even make recommendations based on your past orders and reviews on social media. And the chatbot will ask you if you're running low on anything when it comes to groceries. So DoorDash is following in the footsteps of Uber Eats and Instacart, who have also added AI assistance to make the shopping experience more conversational and personalized, say those companies. So DoorDash's co-founder says that during the limited rollout to select iOS users, nearly half of takeout orders via the tool were made by people who had never ordered from that restaurant before. So possibly this could be good for businesses, getting discovered by people that don't know them. And the chatbot will be rolled out to more users in the coming weeks, and it will eventually have the capacity to even make reservations on behalf of diners.
Now, if it could only pay the bill at the end of all of that, that would be great.
That would be fantastic. I mean, the people who own this and, the money that you're spending going to go pay other people. Yeah, I mean, of course, I order food online, but it's so expensive.
Yeah.
But it's so convenient. They've got us.
They've got us. They've got us. All right, Crystal Lee Ramlakan joining us with your business news. Canada fast becoming a global soccer powerhouse, and it is time to celebrate the beautiful game. Join Matt Galloway for a special live broadcast of CBC Radio's The Current, kicking off this morning from CBC HQ in Toronto. The morning features live music from two-time Polaris winner Shad, as well as a special appearance by hip-hop icon Cardinal Official. So, insights from Team Canada legends Diana Matheson, Craig Forrest, alongside the coaches shaping the future of Canadian soccer. Again, the kickoff in Manitoba is at 2 o'clock. I mean, the game is not in Manitoba, but our time is 2 p.m. So to get us in the mood, a song by Cardinal called Number One. Cardinal Official, I can't believe that was 2008, stands the test of time. Number one, he will be joining Matt Galloway later this morning for the special live broadcast focused on all things FIFA. 10 minutes now before 7 o'clock, and Canada has a new national food security strategy. Prime Minister Mark Carney announcing the plan yesterday.
To protect our sovereignty and truly take control of our future, we have to take control of our food system.
It's a 10-year plan, over $3 billion attached to it, including goals like increasing grocery competition and reducing Canada's reliance on food imports. Yuri Goulandry is at the Abel Hodgson Chair in Regenerative Agriculture at Western University, an expert on food supply chains, and joins us now to provide analysis of the strategy. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
The food security strategy highlights three main problems with Canada's food system: not enough competition between grocery retailers, not enough tech, and too much reliance on imported food. Do you agree with that diagnosis?
I think the food strategy moves in the right direction, but it risks doing the right things with the wrong scope of operations and in the wrong order. I have three concerns. First, income inequality, a structural driver of food insecurity, remains largely unaddressed in the document. You can fix a food system without supporting who can afford to eat in it and who earns a living producing it. The second point of concern is around the fact that concentration and sort of lack of competition isn't just at the checkout at retailers. It's everywhere, including upstream in the chain. Everyone talks about the grocery giants, rightfully so. Competition there needs to grow, but the problem starts long before the shelf. Just as an example, 4% of Canada's farms generate more than half of all farm revenues in the country. And large-scale producers are set to serve export markets. They have a diversity problem. And then the third point of concern is the reference to technology being a bottleneck. And the question there is, so what kind of technology? Because labor productivity in agriculture has outpaced most other sectors over the past decade. So we are already very efficient, and yet we don't serve our regions. What we lack is a shift away from high specialization in monoculture and export trade towards greater diversification of production and processing, tailors to specific regions and the land and the people in it.
So the strategy includes $1 billion to build new food distribution hubs and terminals in Canada. For people who might not know, what are those?
Well, regional food hubs and terminals are basically matchmakers, point of aggregation where local suppliers are connected to local buyers through a wholesale channel. So there is a sort of a well-established example, if you like, a successful example of the Ontario Food Terminal in Toronto. It has done this matchmaking for 70 years now. It basically connects 400 farms in a 200-kilometer radius with 5,000 buyers that serve then the GTA. It moves about 2 billion pounds of produce per year. At the international level, there are other examples like Juntos Farm in Spain, Sechem in Egypt, the Sustainable Food Places in the UK, and the 100% Organic Villages in Japan. These are all regional food systems that are built around infrastructure that connect local suppliers with local buyers.
Lots of producers here on the prairies. So how does this strategy help farmers and other food producers?
It established a new $1 billion agri-food project finance fund to be delivered by Farmer Credit Canada, and is matched by, I think, $5 billion in private investment. But however,
there is no detail in the strategy on how the FCC managed fund will be directed. Will it be directed towards diversifying, differentiating, decentralizing production and processing so that we can grow the diversity of foods that we need in specific regions? That would be very welcome, because as we diversify production, there is also labor inclusion and expansion, which is essential through food sovereignty, because it helps to reduce reliance on pool of low-wage migrant labor while also offering income opportunity.
We've got
another point.
We've got about a minute remaining, and I want to get to this final question. The strategy comes as a lot of Canadians, particularly some that have never experienced this before, but a lot of Canadians are now struggling with high food prices. Is this going to help?
Unfortunately, not in the short term. This strategy, if done well, can increase diversity, can empower regional food systems, but that is a long-term transition. In fact, over 10 years. In the short term, there is a benefit package that has been put together to offer about $1,800 to a family of four, but that's not going to move the needle significantly. Just let's run numbers very quickly. Assume $15 a day for a person to feed him or herself. A family of four for 360 days, that's $22,000 a year, to be conservative. So $1,800 in benefits is less than 8%, whereas in the last few years we've seen a 30% increase in prices. Just to put things in perspective, the carbon tax that was canceled last year was generating in rebates about $1,400 for a family of four in rural areas.
So there's lots. I apologize. We have to leave it there, but it's certainly going to be something to watch in the future, and no doubt we'll be talking about it again. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yuri Gwalandri is an associate professor at Western University. Next hour, a couple in Selkirk thought they'd never see their two horses again. We're chomping at the bit to bring you that story after 7 o'clock. In the meantime, let us pop into our CBC newsroom and see what Heather Wells is working on.
Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada saying she had been overpaid 20 cents on her CPP disability pension and was requested to pay it back. Following an access to information request, CBC learned more than 3,000 similar letters signaling overpayments of under $2 had been sent out between 2024 and 2026. We're going to hear from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation coming up. And Winkler holds its first Pride event this weekend. After seeing a backlash to the event, supporters from Brandon are busing to Winkler to take part. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather Wells.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, that emotional story of reuniting two horses with their owners from over 15 years ago is still to come. Also, Winnipeggers helping others, including those businesses. Princess Auto opening up its East Store 24/7, especially in light of all of these storms. We'll bring you the details on that. If you're seeing something in traffic, 204-788-3093 is our commuter line. Sierra is there ready to take your calls if something is slowing you down in traffic. If you want to share anything on our listener line, you can certainly do that as well. Perhaps a little cheer for Team Canada as they get to play their World Cup game at 2 o'clock our time this afternoon. The listener line is 204-788-3205. We are getting a bit of a mix of sun and cloud right now after some rain early this morning. Chance of more of that coming today. The wind gusting at times up to 60 kilometers an hour. The high today of 17. If you are in the north, there are rainfall warnings for the areas of Thompson as well as Churchill. We will run down your full forecast, your traffic, and bring you all of those local stories and much more after we're back following World Report. Stay here.
today on The Current.
The World Cup is here, and today a celebration of all things soccer. We have a live show coming to you from the Atrium in the CBC headquarters in Toronto. Music, Canadian soccer legends, and a live audience. The Current from CBC HQ coming up.
Yes. The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is a historic day for Canadian sports. This afternoon, Canada hosts a men's World Cup soccer match for the very first time. The national team takes to the pitch in Toronto to face Bosnia-Herzegovina. Millions of fans across the country will be watching to see if Canada can secure its first ever victory on soccer's biggest stage. The CBC's Thomas Dagla has our top story.
Are you ready, Toronto?
At the FIFA Fan Festival site in Toronto and in bars and living rooms across the country today, Canadians will be watching soccer history.
That finally Canada is hosting the Cup, so we're excited to have it in our city.
We have an amazing team that's probably going to win this thing, but we'll see. That's just me.
The Canadian team has never played to a draw at the Men's World Cup, let alone scored a win.
The Canadians are going to show up and they're going to be loud. Hopefully they're going to push us for a good result.
Midfielder Stefan Eustáquio may be soft-spoken off the pitch, but today he'll be battling as team captain.
We want to get a win. We know that Bosnia wants the same thing. It's going to be a very tough game.
In that lead role, Eustáquio is replacing superstar Alphonso Davies, who's still recovering from a hamstring injury. Head coach Jesse Marsh says Davies underwent an MRI and the results were encouraging.
I wish we had 2 more weeks so that Alphonso would really be back and all our guys would have a little bit more underneath them. But at the same time, man, we are ready to play some games.
After today's opener against Bosnia, the Canadians travel to Vancouver for 2 more matches with the hope of advancing to the next round for the first time ever. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is beginning an important European diplomatic tour. He landed in Paris this morning for a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron later today. The talks are a prelude to Monday's G7 summit, where leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump, will confront brewing global trade tensions and international conflicts. The CBC's Kate McKenna has details from Paris.
The G7 is taking place at a critical time for the world, geopolitically, geostrategically.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says the stakes are high as he begins a trip to Europe where he'll meet other G7 leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump.
Of course, we want to know his perspective. One always wants to know the perspective of the President of the United States.
But first, Carney will meet with French President Emmanuel Macron. Both are in Paris today. Carney says this meeting is about preparing for the summit on Monday. They're also set to discuss defense, trade, and artificial intelligence. Fen Hampston is a professor of international affairs at Carleton University. He says the big issue looming is the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran.
The focus will be how to de-escalate this crisis, how to bring the parties back to the table. There's no question that Europe is being hit very hard by this crisis. It's not just American consumers who are paying more at the gas pump.
Canada, though, is also signaling plans to talk tariffs with the U.S. The U.S.-Canada Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc plans to attend the G7. He says he'll be meeting with his U.S. counterpart while he's there. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Paris.
Ottawa could clamp down on imported goods tied to forced labor with a new bill expected as early as today. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand says the legislation will target supply chains that exploit workers. It comes as Canada faces pressure to align its trade policies with Washington. The CBC's Janice McGregor joins us from Ottawa. Janice, it's already illegal to import goods made with forced labor. So what exactly will this new bill change?
Well, for starters, it's not clear that the current system is working. By its own reporting, the Canada Border Services Agency has intercepted and detained goods, but it's struggled to nail down proof of forced labor connections. It only prohibited a shipment twice in 5 years. Prime Minister Mark Carney yesterday admitted his government eliminated an office, the Ombudsman for Responsible Enterprise. That was meant to be a human rights watchdog, but in fact, it only conducted one investigation in 7 years. Canada may have strict standards, but it falls short on follow-through.
We've been less effective, once coming into government, at least in my view, in fully enforcing those, and some of that relates to how the responsibilities are structured legally. Some of it relates to resources.
Conservatives like Arnold Viersen pointed out in question period that while importers are supposed to document their supply chains, some aren't.
But the Liberals, contrary to the law, revised their directive and exempted a bunch of their corporate buddies from having to file this report. Now the U.S. is investigating Canada for not fighting forced labor and threatening us in the CUSMA talks.
The Trump administration cited forced labor risks as justification for slapping tariffs on Canada and 59 other countries. So we'll see if today's bill lines up with the American approach.
Yeah, Janice, the U.S. has been pushing hard on this. So do you think that maybe this move will give Canada leverage in wider trade talks?
That's the unsettling political question here, because despite Canada taking steps to placate U.S. concerns, the Trump administration's bully talk hasn't stopped. Yesterday, the minister responsible, Dominic LeBlanc, said some of the issues they've resolved so far were in Canada's economic interest. In this case, stronger enforcement of forced labor laws will level the playing field for Canadian workers and businesses, too.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
Renowned British artist David Hockney has died. He rose to fame in the 1960s, becoming a global art icon with his vibrant, shimmering paintings of Southern California swimming pools. Considered one of the most influential pop artists of his generation, Hockney's masterpieces would later command tens of millions of dollars at auction. His publicist confirmed Hockney died peacefully on Thursday. David Hockney was 88 years old. Iran is refuting Donald Trump's claim that Washington and Tehran have forged a peace deal. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry calls reports of an agreement speculative, adding that nothing has been finalized. The U.S. president made his declaration last night, just hours after he called off planned airstrikes on Iran.
I don't know if you heard, but we ended the war with Iran today, and they have agreed never to have a nuclear weapon, something that we insisted on. That was the whole purpose. That was 95% of it. And they've done it in the most powerful way you can do it.
Trump says the two sides could sign the deal as early as this weekend. The United States Supreme Court has blocked an execution in Alabama using nitrogen gas. The High Court voted 6-3 to reject a last-minute appeal from the state. Lower courts had already ruled that using nitrogen gas is unconstitutionally cruel. Inmate Jeffrey Lee was convicted of a double murder in 1998. The jury voted for a life sentence, but a judge overrode that decision and handed down the death penalty. Alabama banned judicial overrides in 2017, but the change was not retroactive. As we count down the last few hours before Canada's World Cup opener, we know that major sporting events like the FIFA World Cup bring massive crowds. Part of ensuring those fans go home happy is planning for all manner of health risks, everything from infectious illnesses to extreme heat. The CBC's Amina Zephyr reports on how public health officials in Toronto and Vancouver have been preparing behind the scenes.
We know we wanted to step up our surveillance a little bit more because we're going to be welcoming the world.
Dr. Michelle Murty is Toronto's Medical Officer of Health. While outbreaks are rare, this year's gathering comes at a tense time amid a growing Ebola outbreak in Central Africa. But Ebola isn't near the top of her list of threats.
We have never seen a case of Ebola in Toronto or in Canada, so we have a lot of other things in place.
Welcome to the Health Security Operations Center.
Rebecca Katz heads up a surveillance lab for host countries at Georgetown University in Washington. Katz says the most likely infectious disease threats spread through the air, like in coughs. For that, Katz and her team tap into disease surveillance data from wastewater.
Looks like it can pick up measles in the wastewater 5 to 7 days before the first patient actually shows up in the emergency department. It's really powerful.
Dr. Murty calls the heads up useful.
So we're looking for norovirus, measles infection, and mpox infection.
In Vancouver, public health teams are also on the lookout for foodborne illnesses. Dr. Mark Lysician serves as a medical officer of health at Vancouver Coastal Health.
We're also worried about non-communicable disease risks, things like heat, wildfire smoke. How will that impact the games?
Amina Zephyr, CBC News, Toronto.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. More than 60,000 people follow World Report, and you can too. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
Good morning to you. I'm Julie Buckingham in for Marcy Marcusa today. You're listening to Information Radio, CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM. Everywhere you are on the Listen app and on YouTube. It's Friday morning and 13 degrees in downtown Winnipeg outside our studios here at Portage and Spence. And if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It's sunny now. We started the show, it was raining, so you may still see some wet streets if you are being slowed down on your commute. Certainly let us know at 204-788-3093. Still to come, Winnipeggers helping others. Princess Auto will talk about their Winnipeg East store being accessible 24/7 as there were severe storms in our city. That conversation and what you can get at the store still to come. Abby will have your full forecast, of course, and we'll start things off this hour by heading to our news center where we find Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, doctors are raising concerns after a highly specialized physician handed in her resignation at the Health Sciences Centre. Dr. Alessandra Cassano-Bailey is one of only a handful of interventional radiologists in this province. Doctors Manitoba says specialists have been raising concerns about the lack of resources and staffing, and more could leave the province if nothing changes. Manitoba Hydro has restored most power outages caused by damage from the violent thunderstorms we saw earlier this week. The utility says by last night, a total of 245 customers were still without power, including about 100 in Winnipeg, and crews will reach those today. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
And we'll be ready. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby Adeyemi has been tracking your forecast. And as I mentioned, we started the show. There was rain in downtown Winnipeg. It's now sunny. We are anticipating more showers, especially in the northern part of the province.
Yes, true, Julie. Severe slow-moving system still continues to dump that heavy rainfall in the northern part of the province. You will notice localized flooding and even frozen grounds underneath these rainfalls we're getting in the northern end, so be prepared for that. But here in Winnipeg, look outside, some sunshine cracking through those cloudy conditions. A slim chance of showers still in the afternoon. It's going to get windy at some point. Current temperatures right now, we're seeing 13 degrees, and we are warming up to a high of 17 later. Most of the regions close to 13 degrees in the south, and if you look up north, we're seeing around 1 in the Churchill area, and then we see 7 around the Par Flin Flon. But for today, it's more like this sunny conditions, and you might see rain in the mix. I don't know if you caught it yesterday, Julie. The rain came when it was really sunny outside.
Yes.
And
Remarkable. It was beautiful.
Okay, so we have this folklore back in Nigeria. There's a saying that when you see the rain coming when the sun is shining really high, it means a big animal is having a baby. It could be an elephant or a lion. It's a folklore passed down from generations to generation.
Very cool.
So there's always something from my grandpa and grandma saying, hey, if you see the sun shining and the rain is pouring, definitely one of these big animals having a baby. Just let them have their time. But if
That's a beautiful story.
And then if you want to look on the colorful side, you might just spot a rainbow somewhere.
Well, there's that too. and maybe a pot of gold somewhere.
Yes, and then if you go maybe to Japan, it's all folklore has it that some foxes getting married.
Okay.
So it's either the big elephant, an elephant having a baby, a lioness having a baby, or the foxes are getting married.
Well, I know that, I don't know about elephants being born in Manitoba, but I did see a video from Riding Mountain National Park where a deer had a fawn on the road.
Was it rain and sun at that time?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know,
Look
but
it up next time.
let's just say that it was, because it completes the circle of life. Perhaps you are. Thanks, Abby. You are trying to make your way in this morning, and you've got the sunglasses on and off and on and off because you just kind of don't know what you're going to get. How's the drive been, Sierra?
It's been pretty quiet so far, Julie. The commuter line has been fairly quiet, which is a little bit of a change up from earlier in the week when I was in the director chair, which is nice. But to me, that sounds like things are moving along pretty smoothly here on your commute, especially after a couple of disruptions here over the last couple of days. But it sounds like things are being restored back to somewhat normal here. But things are moving along smoothly. It's just some highways to note that are still closed due to those storms we had earlier this week. We are seeing, due to the flooding on Highway 10 in both directions, near Tamarack Creek and east of Swan River, Highway 10 is closed there, and that is in the Minnetonka area. As well, Highway 7 from Highway 67 to Toulon, that is also closed due to that flooding in the Stonewall area and surrounding area because of all that rain they got. So we are still seeing some closures as people recover from that flooding, as well as our own roads are recovering too. But if there is something you want to let me know about that's popping up on your drive, I'd love to hear about it. Give me a call. That number is 204-788-3093.
Approaching 16 minutes after 7 o'clock. And if I say rye and Coke to you on a Friday in Manitoba, you're thinking, oh, you're going to a social? Well, yeah, usually it's in reference to the famous Canadian mixed drink. But in this story, they are the names of two beloved horses just reunited with their owners after 15 years. Bill and Adele McCaw gave up hope of ever seeing their horses again, but the Selkirk couple got a joyful surprise last week when they received word that Ryan Coke were rescued by Little Red Barn Sanctuary in Winnipeg. They join us now live to tell us their story. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. How are you?
Excellent. I guess we should say that that is you, Bill, and Adele joining us, not Ryan Coke.
Yeah, that would be good, yeah.
Bill, I think people would want to know, how did you lose Ryan Coke in the first place?
We raised and trained them, and they weren't being used the way they should be. And a friend of ours knew a guy that was highly recommended as a horseman, and he was going to use them on his farm. So we reluctantly sold them to him because we knew that, they like to work, and we sold them to him, and with the agreement that if anything ever happened, they would come back to us, and that didn't happen.
So you mentioned that they like to work. What kind of horses are there? And if you're watching on YouTube, people might be seeing some pictures of Ryan Coke. So tell us about their breed and why they like to work.
Well, they're perch runs. They're draft horses. They like to pull things. They're big horses.
Yeah, they are. They're absolutely beautiful. Adele, tell us a little bit about how you figured out where Ryan Coke ended up.
Okay. Do you want me to hand the phone over to Adele?
Sure.
Okay, hang on.
Good morning.
Good morning, Adele. Tell us how you figured out where your horses were. Did we lose Adele? I think we did. Okay. We will try and reconnect with Bill and Adele. In the meantime, if you're just joining us, they have Percherons, 2 horses, and after 15 years, they were reunited with their horses named Rye and Coke. They owned them, and as Bill was explaining, he had the horses, and these horses like to work, given their breed, and they weren't using them to their capacity. So as a result, they decided reluctantly to sell their horses to another individual who was planning to use those horses on their farm, with the agreement that if something changed, that those horses would come back to Bill and Adele. But unfortunately, that certainly didn't happen, and they lost track of Ryan Koch for the next 15 years. And so at that point, they ended up finding out that the horses had been rescued all these years later by Little Red Barn Sanctuary in Winnipeg. And they rejoin us now. Do we have Bill or Adele?
Both of us, actually.
Both of us. Okay. So Adele, how did you feel when you were finally reunited with your horses?
Forever grateful to the people that were involved in rescuing them. I don't know if you heard me saying we were so thankful to Laverne Tucker. She was the catalyst to all of this. So she let us know what was happening with those horses.
So how did you connect the dots, Bill or Adele, whichever one of you wants to tell us, how did you end up hearing where they
were? Laverne Tucker was looking for a companion for her donkey at Grenfell Auction Mart. And she was looking online, just happened to see the big black bums walking down the alleyway, and then they announced their names were Ryan Koch, and she knew exactly who they were, and realized that they were our horses, and she called us and let us know that the Little Red Barn Sanctuary had outbid the meat buyer, and they were going there. And from there, we got in touch with Little Red Barn. We actually drove right over there. And when we got to Little Red Barn, my husband whistled the horses. We have all our horses trained to whistle. And they came right straight to him immediately.
So then they knew for sure, Bill,
yes.
These were your horses.
They did. Yes, exactly. So if it wasn't for Laverne Tucker, we would never have known.
Bill, what kind of condition were the horses in now? As I can't imagine, as I kind of hold my heart when she said that the sanctuary outbid the meat buyer.
Yeah.
Well, put it to you this way, they're not in as good a condition now as when we sold them.
Oh, heavens, no.
but given some time, we'll get them right back to where they were. They're basically retired now, so they're not going to be working every day or however, but we have a very high standard for care for our animals, and we'll get them back. We'll get them back to where they were.
We have to ask, how did they get their names? Because we all at times enjoy that famous Canadian drink. So how did it come to pass that these two beautiful horses became, and we can never call them Coke and Rye because that would be wrong. So how did Ryan Koch get their names?
Well, when we brought them home, we put them out in the back, and my favorite drink years ago when I used to drink was Ryan Koch. So Adele and I were standing out with them one day, and I wanted unique names, not the generic names that people give horses. And so I said, you know what? Their names are Ryan Koch, and it stuck.
Yeah.
Wow.
And our horses are also trained to come to their name.
Oh.
So he thought if we were out doing some kind of wagon ride and he yelled Ryan Koch, somebody would bring him one.
Well, that wouldn't have been a bad backup, I suppose. And perhaps there's a brand deal to be done with Coke and maybe Crown Royal. Who knows?
Well, you never know. That could be done.
Well, it certainly is a beautiful ending to a story that took 15 years in the making.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Bill, Adele, share your final thoughts on this twist of fate.
Well, we're just happy that things worked out the way they did, and we'll be forever grateful to Colleen and Laverne for making this happen.
we're very happy to look out the window and see them in the corral, happy and calm, and
their names are still on the barn wall from when they were babies. And they both, when Colleen and Derek brought them to us, they delivered them, and the horses went straight in the barn, right into their original stall. They just walked right in like they'd never left.
Sounds like they own the place and they're back where they belong. Bill and Adele McCaw, congratulations on being reunited with Ryan Koch, and celebrate however you like today, even if it's with sparkling water. Congratulations.
No, we'll be giving our big boys some big hugs today as well. We'll be doing. Yeah.
No doubt. Thank you for joining us this morning.
And thank you very much.
Thank you for your interest, and everything turns out the way it should, I guess.
Yeah, and people out there, please try and make some donations to those sanctuaries that save these wonderful animals.
Yeah, the fate could have been much different. Let's give some credit as well. The video that has been playing on our live stream on YouTube is courtesy of Little Red Barn Sanctuary in Winnipeg. Let's check in with Paul McGowan and your sports report. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
Well, certainly a big night for Blue Bomber fans last night. Certainly another sellout. I believe it was the 15th in a row, but didn't necessarily go the way the fans wanted.
No, yeah, did not go the way the fans wanted. The Ticats, who nearly surprised the Alouettes last week, do get the jump on the Bombers last night. 37-27 the final. Mike O'Shea not overly concerned about the offense, but didn't love what he saw from the defense.
There's some plays you'd like to have back, some mistakes that we're not used to making, you know. I think when they watch the film, they'll know, and things that I think are easily fixed. But tackling, at some point, you just got to make the decision to wrap up and tackle somebody, right? Our offense was keeping up. Like, they were out there doing well. We just, needed to finish a couple more drives. All that amounts to us losing in week 2.
Yeah, not a bad night for Zach Collaros and the offense. The Bombers are off next week, back in action at the end of the month against Edmonton.
And this is kind of what we call in the business burying the lead. So we got the Blue Bombers out of the way because the day is here. Canada is going to play a World Cup game here on home soil, Paul.
Yeah, just about 6.5 hours from now. And after all of this buildup, it's hard to believe that we are here, 40 years removed from Canada's first World Cup appearance.
Welcome back to our World Cup Control Center in Mexico City on this historic day in Canadian sport. The curtain is about to go up on Canada in their first ever World Cup competition.
That is Chris Cuthbert on the call 40 years ago on CBC. Canada now getting set to play in its third ever World Cup, and it's no less historic. They get to do it in front of home fans. They enter today's game against Bosnia and Herzegovina as the favorite. That alone is different for this Canadian men's team. But for all that is different heading into today, Coach Jesse Marsh says the important stuff is the same.
The security the group has in each other that we've built for 2 years. They're all equipped with more since their experience from Qatar. So it's really actually been pretty normal, if you can believe that. We're excited and we want to really represent Canada in all the right ways, but I think we're really focused on making sure that we're ready to perform.
Speaking of ready to perform, Moise Bombito, who we were not sure would even be on the roster when it was finalized yesterday, he is available off the bench today. So almost all hands on deck in Toronto as Canada kicks off their tournament.
That historic call from Chris Cuthbert, that is, it's amazing audio. It really kind of gives you the feeling of how historic this is. So what can you tell us about who Canada is facing today?
Well, Bosnia is an interesting team. This is just their second World Cup. Their leading striker is 40 years old, which makes him the third oldest player at the tournament. But they are a big team, a physical team, and head coach Sergei Barbarez says that they are eager to prove themselves against Canada.
We are a small country, but if you know our results, you'll understand how to evaluate what we've achieved. When you play with your heart, it is always intense. We are playing against the host in one of the opening matches, which is a great honor for us. We want to represent ourselves in the best light. We want to be a team that earns respect, and the only way to achieve that is through what we show on the pitch.
A good reminder there of what makes this tournament great, because the talk about playing with heart, representing the country, earning respect. Those are the same things that Jesse Marsh just said about Canada. And you have 48 countries that all feel the same way. And speaking of...
Open wide for some soccer!
It's been a slow start to the World Cup. Just 2 games yesterday, 2 more today, but we kick into high gear after today. 68 group stage games happening over the next 12 days.
It is going to be so exciting. No doubt that the mood in Toronto will be off the charts. And Paul, it's going to be a ton of fun. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Julie.
Paul McGowan with your CBC Sports. Of course, The Current is doing a full show to get you all set on all things FIFA. Still to come, next half hour, it looks like Facebook and other platforms could be off for kids under the age of 16. We'll bring you details on that and much more. Your CBC News starts now.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it's 13 degrees in downtown Winnipeg. Excuse me. Mix of sun and clouds is what we're expecting as we try to dry out, but we do still have a slight chance of showers today. A bit of a wind and a cool high of 17, even colder tomorrow. CBC News has learned before a Winnipeg woman died after giving plasma, the machine being used on her issued several alerts. One of the alerts meant staff should stop the collection, but Health Canada investigators say that didn't happen. 22-year-old Rodayette Alabadi died in October 2025 after giving plasma at the Griffles Collection Centre on Taylor. Phlebotomist Taishiana Jackson has worked at multiple paid plasma centers in the United States, and she says multiple alerts going off is concerning.
Maybe that young lady would still be here if center management would have made sure that their team was properly trained on handling alerts and documenting these things.
Health Canada finished its investigation in March, saying they didn't find a connection between the plasma donation process and her death. Doctors are raising concerns after a highly specialized physician handed in her resignation at the Health Sciences Centre. Dr. Alessandra Cassano-Bailey is one of only a handful of interventional radiologists in this province. The specialists use things like X-rays and MRIs to perform procedures to help critically ill patients, including complex cancer cases. An internal letter signed by 14 physicians and staff say her departure will be a huge loss for patients. Hepatologist Dr. Kelly Kaita signed that letter.
Without her, we're left having to deal with probably referring patients out of province or out of country for the procedures. We're also left with fewer and fewer interventional radiologists who themselves are really beginning to burn out.
Doctors Manitoba say specialists have raised concerns about lack of resources and staffing, and more could leave the province if nothing changes. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada saying she had been overpaid 20 cents on her CPP disability pension and requested she pay it back. Following an access to information request, CBC learned more than 3,000 similar letters signaling overpayments of under $2 had been sent out between 2024 and 2026. Nicholas Gagnon of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation is not impressed.
It is a clear waste of taxpayers' dollars. If the government is paying more to pay for the stamps on the letter than for the amount that is recovered through that letter, there's clearly a waste of dollars and a waste of government resources as well.
According to the Federal Financial Administration Act, Employment and Social Development Canada may write off overpayments of 99 cents or less for a select number of programs, including CPP. In an email to Regio Canada, the department indicated they were updating how small overpayments are processed. You can hear more on this story coming up in this next half hour right here on Information Radio. Manitoba Hydro has restored most power outages caused by damage from violent thunderstorms earlier this week. The utility says by last night, a total of 245 customers were still without power, including about 100 in Winnipeg, and crews aim to reach those today. And a caution, Hydro says these may not be the last of weather outages, damaged equipment not yet detected, or weakened trees or branches falling on lines may still result in power disruptions over the coming days. Winkler holds its first Pride event this weekend. Supporters from Brandon are busing there to take part. Brandon Pride Chair Nora Wilson says they delayed their own rally after seeing a backlash to the Winkler event.
If you are in a town of 100 or you're in a town of 1 million, everyone should have the same rights to be able to walk down the street as who they are and feel completely safe.
Pauline Emerson-Froby is co-chair of the Manitoba Pride Alliance, which includes more than 30 Pride events across the province.
You get a little verklempt when you see that. They want to support. And rural prides, we are really trying to band together to help each other out.
Organizers have hired security for a church service at Covenant Mennonite Church tomorrow in Winkler and an event at the Winkler Parkland. Canada's World Cup team faces off against Bosnia-Herzegovina today. It will be the first game to be played on Canadian soil for the World Cup. The game is happening in Toronto, and that city is buzzing with plenty of festivities and anticipation.
We live here, so there's just so much excitement.
I mean, this is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. It doesn't happen every year that you get the World Cup in your country, so...
Totally excited. I'm not even a soccer fan, but the energy that it's bringing to the city and just the whole excitement of the transformation of the neighborhood is exciting.
Canada will be looking to clinch its first ever win at a FIFA World Cup tournament. Kickoff is 2 Central Time. And both the weather and the Hamilton Tiger Cats rained on last night's Blue Bomber home opener.
Wilson catches it, touchdown! Winnipeg has life!
Ontario Wilson with a late drive in the fourth quarter on TSN, but it wasn't enough to give Winnipeg a win. Hamilton outplaying the Bombers 37-27. Quarterback Zach Collaros is disappointed.
Our job is to score touchdowns. So no matter what's going on the other side, like with the other offense, we got to score touchdowns. And it's fun. It's fun to go try to go score touchdowns. So again, listen, it's early in the season. First game, there's nobody who's going to be more disappointed in themselves than really everybody on this team, honestly, because we all want to win.
And they will try again, but not until late June. The Bombers have a bye this week, so they next see action when the Edmonton Elks are in town on June 25th. You can find more Manitoba news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Always love to hear that cannon fire in the background, and sometimes I can even hear it from home, and then you know that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers have scored a TD. Well, when it comes to the weather, not sure that we're going to score a TD in terms of what your plans are this weekend. Definitely on the cooler side, Abby.
Yeah, definitely. And the TDs you're going to get would most likely be rain touching down in most of the northern part of the province as this slow-moving storm system continues to dump heavy rain towards the Thompson-Churchill area. So we're looking out for localized flooding to frozen undergrounds in that part of the province. Hence, we still have rainfall warnings towards the northern part of the province and the northeastern part of the province as we speak now. But for Winnipeg, we saw some cloudy skies. The sun cracked through earlier. We still have a slim chance of showers in the afternoon, and we'll see some windy conditions to go with that. But current temperatures right now, we're looking at 13 degrees. Morning temperatures really going to be hovering around that 13, 14 with the winds coming from the west as we head to our daily high of 17 today, and expect more cloudy skies and showers tonight into the overnight period. So expect it more like a cool overnight period with temperatures around 8 degrees and more wet conditions into Saturday before we see some sunny conditions on Sunday. So no sun, don't expect lots of sunshine till Sunday. That's just it. Across the southern regions, for Independent Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Alton, and Morris, we're seeing temperatures around 13 now. You get to 18 later. While in the Westman region, Brandon towards Nipoa, we're seeing sunshine there, 12 degrees right now. You see a transition to a mix of sun and clouds later. Highs also around 18. Dauphin, you are at 12 and sunny at this time. heading for a high of 15, while in the Interlake region, Gimli and nearby areas, we're seeing cloudy skies, some sun poking through. 13 degrees right now, you get to 17 later. Then we cross into the Par, Flin Flon. We're seeing both areas seeing light rain at 7 degrees. Windy conditions, you get to 11. Norway House is at 6 with light rain also. Highs around 10. While in the Thompson and Gillum areas, we're seeing temperatures around 5 degrees at this time. With light rain, you only get to 7. Lynn Lake is at 4 with light rain, warming up to 10. Tuduli is at 4. Cloudy conditions, it gets windy at some points. You get to 6 degrees later. While in the Churchill and York region, we're looking at 1 degree right now. Light rain, strong winds, highs would be around 4. So it's more like a split day. We're still seeing rain in the northern part of the province with flood risks and windy south conditions, also with cloudy conditions to go with that. For the city, we're expecting a mix of sun and clouds, highs around 17 degrees, and temperatures will just hover around 13 to 15 degrees before we touch that high of 17 later.
Thanks, Abby. And I took a little sneak peek ahead at the forecast, and it doesn't look like really any significant heat all of next week either. Highs in the low 20s. So if those temperatures feel much more comfortable than the high 30s, then next week is your week. Sierra Sanders is our director and is also checking traffic. Things still good?
I mean, there's not much to check, Julie.
Great.
Which I think is a good...
Perfect for a Friday.
I agree. I think this is like, to me, it's sounding like the perfect Friday commute as people start to recover and just hopefully try to enjoy Winnipeg now after.
The lake, maybe?
The lake, maybe. Yeah, I don't really know what folks' weekend plans are, especially with this weather that kind of is moving through. I know it's probably not the most ideal, but I know our colleague Chloe Friesen is looking forward to a little bit of cooler weather, she was mentioning. So, which is good, but it sounds like your commute is pretty cool right now. Nothing major to report. The commuter line has been pretty quiet so far this morning. So things are sounding like they're moving along smoothly, which is great. But if that changes while you're out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. I'd love to hear what you're seeing out there. We still have a lot of time left in the show. So you can give me a call on that CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
19 minutes now before 8 o'clock. And since we're giving times, 24-hour stores can be hard to come by these days. But Princess Auto wanted to make sure it was ready and available for those experiencing the effects of Tuesday's storm. In a social media post, the Winnipeg-based company reminded people their Winnipeg East store has 24/7 accessible service available, and that all pumps and generators were not only available, they were on sale. And the caption said, quote, "We are here for you," unquote. Dave Mathis is the Vice President of Retail Operations with Princess Auto, and he joins me now live on Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you today.
Nice to see you as well. And I think I know the answer to this, but what are some of the products in big demand the last few days, this past week?
Well, you can imagine it's not just fishing poles and fun things to do outside. It's all based on cleanup. And after this crazy rain, people have got shop vacs and pumps and hoses and all kinds of things tied to getting their basements and their yards dried out. So it's been an interesting few days over here.
Lots of pumps, lots of generators, no doubt. Did you sell out of any of those items?
We certainly did, and we had the store open, of course, 24 hours. So overnight, we sold out of generators and pumps, and we were just shocked at how much was going through. So we brought a whole bunch more in, not just from some stores here locally in Winnipeg, but we brought some in from Ontario and Calgary, and we're able to sort of restock shelves as fast as possible. And it's been amazing just to see people saying thank you for having stuff in stock, and then also for putting it on sale at the same time to help people get their homes dried up.
Because often you would see, in situations like this, I've seen coverage in the past, not necessarily here in Manitoba or even in Canada, that, it's like, well, this is a hot commodity and it wouldn't necessarily be on sale. Why was that an important factor for you to not only get it replenished, but also to have it at a price that people would be able to afford?
Well, our business is here to help people, not to gouge people. We've always felt that having the accessibility overnight when times of need are here was an important thing to help serve customers. And at the same time, we know that people's money is tight right now. So we wanted to make sure that if we've had it on sale before, we can put it on sale now when people actually need stuff. And the last thing you want to do is go overpay for anything tied to cleaning up your basement or keeping your family safe or all the things that are tied to all this. So it's something that we like to do and make sure that people don't feel like we're gouging them and trying to do this for sales. We're trying to do this to help people.
Tell us about the 24/7 option, because I will admit I thought, oh, that's lovely that they're doing this given the situation, but this wasn't just as a result of the storm.
That's right. We've been doing this for years and years. It's something that, like, we know rainstorms don't just happen at retail hours. If you're driving a school bus and a hydraulic line breaks, it doesn't happen. You don't choose when this happens. We have farmers working in fields that, need to get this done. It's a time window that's always smaller. And doing that in retail hours isn't always fair to people. So we've done this for years. When something happens, we've opened our store and advertised a phone number. And this new concept store, instead of waiting for something to happen, we just said, why don't we do this all the time? This makes sense for people. And so this is one that there actually is a specific area we can have with doors that can open throughout the night for people. And we have people working that can go and pick the rest of the store for you when you're in there. But our other stores do the same thing. The store out on Portage Avenue, Winnipeg West, is doing the same thing right now. You can phone a number when you get there and access inventory as you need it in the middle of the night.
Wow. And how have customers reacted and responded?
Well, it's been really incredible. And I think a lot of people didn't know we do this. So the new store that has easy access, when people found out, it started sort of, I'll use the word flooding, not just, it's a punny word for this situation,
Right.
but people were flooding in, buying generators and buying pumps and the things around that. And word sort of spread out quickly that this is happening, but we do this all the time. This is open every day this way in the store.
How has that been a challenge? I mean, we have had 24/7 stores here, large retailers that have done it, and ultimately they've said it's not sustainable, or it was just too difficult from a security perspective. Have there been challenges there for you, or staffing?
Yeah, 100%. We also, it's an area that we have specifically trained folks who can do hydraulic hose, can crimp a hydraulic hose. So it's a bit more technical area. And so training is even more important for us. And, for us, it's an investment we're making in this experience, and we want to be available to people. So it doesn't matter if there's one customer or 500 customers overnight, we're still going to keep doing this.
Well, fantastic. Well done. Thank you for popping on today. And so just to reiterate, are there some pumps and generators and everything still fully in stock and available that people might need?
Yeah, we've gone through a lot of inventory, and so we've brought in what we've got. So everything is available, from suction hose, discharge hose, all the fittings, garden hose if you need that. Shop vacs took a big hit for people who are trying to clean up the last bits, but there's squeegees and brooms and fans and all the gas-powered pumps, electric-powered pumps. That stuff's all available in the store, along with all the rest of the stuff that's in the four walls as well.
And the fun stuff too, though, right?
Of course, the fun stuff. Yeah, all the way from, we got HDMI cables to gas-powered air compressors, and in this new store on Panet Road, there's ice cream and Slurpees, and you can get a great hot dog as well.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your time.
Dave Mathis is the Vice President of Retail Operations with Princess Auto. You can find their stores at 500 Panet Road and 3292 Portage Avenue.
Manitoba may have a reputation for being cold and flat, but our podcast isn't. I'm Marcy Marcusa, the warmest host on the prairies. Even when my podcast, This is Manitoba, is exploring some challenging issues. I'm never flat when it comes to holding our leaders to account. Some of those interviews have been called spicy. If you care about this province, check out This is Manitoba, with new episodes dropping every Wednesday.
13 minutes now before 8 o'clock, Manitoba's own William Prince getting ready to represent our province and his home community of Peguis on the FIFA World Cup stage. He, today, will be performing at the opening ceremonies in Toronto alongside, listen to these, Alanis Morissette, Alessia Cara, Michael Bublé, and our very own, once again, William Prince. Here he is with Flowers on the Dash, featuring Tammy Nielsen.
Well, there's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. Now I'm driving all alone back to Chatham. Rode up with my blues and I still got 'em. There's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em.
Well, I wish you would have called ahead, I'd save you the trouble. You can still go straight to hell, and I shouldn't have to tell you double. Fool
flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. Now I'm driving all alone back to Chatham. Rode up with my blues and I still got 'em. And there's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. I would have listened when you told me you were leaving. This time won't be like the last time, babe, I got a feeling. Give and take, mend and break. Why's it always gotta be this way? Oh, for goodness sake, can we just go for a little drive? Well, there's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. Now I'm driving all alone back to Chatham. Rode up with my blues and I still got 'em. There's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. Well, there's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. Now I'm driving all alone back to Chatham. Rode up with my blues and I still got 'em. And there's flowers on the dash, 'cause she don't want 'em. To get the one she liked.
You ain't listen to a damn thing I've said.
Reds, yellows, purples, whites.
You should know by now. I don't think she's right.
All she wants to do is fight. I guess I don't blame her. She's got every right.
Honey, that's the first right thing you've said on that.
Manitoba's own singer-songwriter William Prince Tammy Nielsen, Flowers on the Dash. He is performing at the Toronto Stadium opening ceremony of the 2026 FIFA World Cup today. And maybe call us and tell us, is your school going to bring in a TV when the game starts at 2 o'clock? Are you going to put it in your office so that your staff at the office can watch the game? Call our listener line 204-788-3205 if you are going to be celebrating and showing your pride in Team Canada. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada. Now, that letter said she was overpaid 20 cents on her disability pension, and she's not alone. Following a Freedom of Information request, CBC learning over 3,000 similar letters were sent out between 2024 and 2026. Radio Canada's Maggie Wilcox is here now to talk more about these letters. Okay, so what is behind the 20-cent repayment request?
Yeah, so it starts with a letter that Leanne Dumbia, a Winnipeg woman, received in December 2025 from Service Canada. Leanne is a recipient of the Canadian Pension Plan's disability benefit since 2024, and as such, she receives a monthly payment. So about 20 months after she started receiving these payments, she received this letter about the overpayment, so in December 2025, and we can hear her initial reaction.
My stomach dropped because it said I had a repayment. And so it's like anytime you have a repayment, when you're on disability, obviously you're not living the luxury life. So I was a little bit worried. But when I went on to read it, it went on to say that from the time I had been receiving it in 2024 until the repayment of December 2025, I owed 20 cents.
20 cents. Okay. So do we know why Leanne received a request for this tiny amount?
Not exactly. Leanne says that she called Service Canada but couldn't really get through to anyone, and she says she couldn't repay it by money order, which was one of the options she was given because it was such a small amount. She wasn't too concerned about the idea of a 20-cent debt, but she did want to do her due diligence since she is a former government employee and lived through the Phoenix payment system fiasco a few years back, as listeners might remember. But also, the letter said that if she didn't repay, her CPP benefits could be diminished by 25% until the debt was repaid. To this day, she has not paid her 20 cents, and her benefits have stayed the same, she says.
It also went on to say that if I had problems, I could arrange a payment plan. So I was just laughing. So what? I'm going to arrange to pay it a penny over 20 months. It was just a ridiculous letter, and I didn't understand how it got through the safeguards of even going out.
Yeah, and according to federal regulations, part of the Federal Financial Administration Act, Employment and Social Development Canada may write off overpayments of 99 cents or less. So Leanne's would technically fall into this category. This is for a select number of programs: CPP, employment insurance, and old age security. Interestingly, though, for all other programs, the threshold is $2.
So she couldn't do the money order. She couldn't write a check. Doesn't sound like she could drop off the cash. So now you're also finding out how many other letters like this have been sent out.
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting. So I learned that in the same month that Leanne received her letter, so we're talking about November, December 2025, 27 letters were sent out signaling an overpayment or requesting a repayment of less than $2 of the Canadian disability benefit. So this is below the threshold for that program. And after sending out an access to information request, I learned that 3,491 letters signaling overpayments of less than $2 for CPP and OAS were sent out between January 2024 and January 2026. I also learned in that request that these were generated, quote, through automated systems. So some of these requests are not technically against stated government policy. They don't meet that 99 cent threshold, but all are minimal requests, some not even more than postage, which is about $1.24 according to Post Canada, so Canada Post. And for Leanne, this is unacceptable.
The letter had to be printed, the letter had to be folded, the letter had to be mailed out, and that costs the government, all of that costs money.
Yeah. I did the math, by the way, 3,491 times $2, which is more than what most of these are for, would be $6,982. So it's a very small amount for all of those letters that you found out about. What's been the federal government's response, and will there be changes?
Yeah, so according to an email response that I got, there will be some. ESDC says, and I quote, that it is updating its procedures for the handling of small overpayments with an approach that ensures compliance with client notification obligation, promotes administrative efficiency through consolidated communications, ensures clients receive their correct benefit entitlement amount as per legislation, and upholds sound stewardship of public funds. These changes also include no longer asking clients owing, quote, small overpayments to repay their debts by check or money order. The amount will instead be recovered automatically from future payments. However, clients will still receive a letter informing them of the overpayment, their revised benefit entitlement, and their right to request a reconsideration. So still the fact that we are collecting such small sums and doing so by sending letters, it's unbelievable for some, and that's what Nicolas Gagnon, the Quebec director for the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, told me.
Well, it is a clear waste of taxpayers' dollars. If the government is paying more to pay for the stamps on the letter than for the amount that is recovered through that letter, there's clearly a waste of dollars and a waste of government resources as well.
Yeah, and so Leanne Doumbia says that she's never received any sort of apology from Service Canada or ASDC, and says now she really hopes the system changes.
Fascinating story, and I guess people will cash checks for a penny, and now the government will ask for pennies back in return. Fascinating. Thank you for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Maggie Wilcox is a reporter with Radio Canada. After 8 o'clock, it looks like you'll have to log off from Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat if you're under the age of 16. A new bill introduced this week by the federal government would look at restricting those platforms. Its latest attempt by the Liberals to create some form of law to address the online harms. We will have more on that story still to come. In the meantime, let's head to our CBC local newsroom. That's where we find Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, documents obtained by CBC show before a Winnipeg woman died after giving plasma, the machine used on her had 5 alerts. One of those alerts meant the plasma collection should have been terminated, but Health Canada inspectors say that did not happen. 22-year-old Rodiette Eladbady died October 2025 after giving plasma at the Griffles Collection Centre on Taylor. Health Canada finished its investigation saying they didn't find a connection between the plasma donation process and her death. Manitoba Hydro has restored most power outages caused by damage from this week's storms. The utility says by last night, a total of 245 customers were still without power, including about 100 in Winnipeg, and crews expect to reach those today. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Lots still to come on the show before we wrap it up for Friday. If you are doing some things outside, sun cloud mix in the city of Winnipeg today, a little bit on the windy side, high of 17. 18 for Brandon, 15 for Dauphin in the far north. You're under rain warnings. Come on back. We'll be waiting for you on the other side of the World Report.
Today on Q. What if you could go from not writing songs at all to having songs with billions of streams in about 2 years? That's what happened to Audrey Hobart. She'll be here to tell you about it and working with her best friend, the pop star Gracie Abrams.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
The World Cup is here, and today a celebration of all things soccer. We have a live show coming to you from the Atrium in the CBC headquarters in Toronto. Music, Canadian soccer legends, and a live audience. The Current from CBC HQ coming up.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Martina Fitzgerald. Prime Minister Mark Carney is beginning an important European diplomatic tour. He landed in Paris this morning for a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. The talks are a prelude to Monday's G7 summit, where leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump, will confront brewing global trade tensions and international conflicts. The CBC's Kate McKenna has details from Paris.
The G7 is taking place at a critical time for the world, geopolitically, geostrategically.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says the stakes are high as he begins a trip to Europe where he'll meet other G7 leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump.
Of course, we want to know his perspective. One always wants to know the perspective of the President of the United States.
But first, Carney will meet with French President Emmanuel Macron. Both are in Paris today. Carney says this meeting is about preparing for the summit on Monday. They're also set to discuss defense, trade, and artificial intelligence. Ben Hampston is a professor of international affairs at Carleton University. He says the big issue looming is the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran.
The focus will be how to de-escalate this crisis, how to bring the parties back to the table. There's no question that Europe is being hit very hard by this crisis. It's not just American consumers who are paying more at the gas pump.
Canada, though, is also signaling plans to talk tariffs with the U.S. The U.S.-Canada Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc plans to attend the G7. He says he'll be meeting with his U.S. counterpart while he's there. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Paris.
Ottawa could clamp down on imported goods tied to forced labor, with a new bill expected as early as today. It comes as Canada faces pressure to align its trade policies with Washington. The CBC's Janice McGregor joins us from Ottawa. Janice, it's already illegal to import goods made with forced labor, so what will this new bill change?
Well, for starters, it's not clear that the current system is working. By its own reporting, the Canada Border Services Agency has intercepted and detained goods like solar panels, auto parts, textiles, frozen seafood, but it's struggled to nail down proof of forced labor connections. It only prohibited a shipment twice in 5 years of investigating. Prime Minister Mark Carney yesterday admitted his government eliminated an office, the Ombudsman for Responsible Enterprise. That was meant to be a human rights watchdog, but in fact, it only conducted one investigation in 7 years. Canada may have strict standards, but it falls short on follow-through.
We've been less effective, once coming into government, at least in my view, in fully enforcing those, and some of that relates to how the responsibilities are structured legally. Some of it relates to resources.
Conservatives like Arnold Bierson pointed out in question period that while importers are supposed to document their supply chains, some aren't.
But the Liberals, contrary to the law,
revised their directive and exempted a bunch of their corporate buddies from having to file this report. Now the U.S. is investigating Canada for not fighting forced labor and threatening us in the CUSMA talks.
The Trump administration cited forced labor risks as justification for slapping tariffs on Canada and 59 other countries. In U.S. laws that target China, the onus is on importers to prove that shipments aren't linked to the abuse of Uyghurs or other minority groups. So we'll see if today's bill lines up with the American approach.
Yeah, Janice, the U.S. has been pushing hard on this. So do you think that maybe this move will give Canada leverage in wider trade talks?
That's the unsettling political question here, because despite Canada taking steps to placate U.S. concerns, the Trump administration's bully talk hasn't stopped, the Gordie Howe Bridge isn't open, tariffs haven't gone away. Yesterday, the minister responsible, Dominic LeBlanc, said some of the issues they've resolved so far were in Canada's economic interest. In this case, stronger enforcement of forced labor laws will level the playing field for Canadian workers and businesses, too.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
Canada's new national food security strategy promises to make groceries more affordable. Prime Minister Carney unveiled the multi-billion-dollar plan on Thursday, saying it will address the high costs plaguing shoppers across the country. But some food economists warn there is very little in the way of immediate relief at the checkout. The CBC's Sam Sampson reports.
At this Calgary grocery store, some shoppers are already changing how they fill their carts because their dollar just doesn't go as far.
Everything's gone up because I'm a pensioner and you only get so much.
It's causing a lot of stress, especially as the kids, they're growing.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's new food strategy promises to ease those worries.
Because a country that can't feed itself or fuel itself or defend itself isn't truly sovereign.
The four main goals are increase grocer retail competition by funding more places for independent grocers to buy food, boost processing power in Canada so we don't have to rely on other countries to process goods, invest in greenhouses and vertical farming to grow fruits and veggies year-round, and cut red tape to get food on shelves faster.
The actual pace of action is glacial.
University of Saskatchewan agriculture and resource economics professor Stuart Smythe says the announcement recycles ideas Ottawa could have acted on years ago, and ultimately they're focusing on long-term solutions.
I don't see anything in the strategy that's going to be able to have an effect on grocery prices in the next 6 months. And really, that's what a grocery strategy should, in part, try to achieve, is that balance between how do we address the short-term crisis, but also provide some incentives for longer-term investment.
Other food economists say the strategy will help fix an outdated supply chain system, but agree it won't slash prices at the checkout anytime soon. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
Renowned British artist David Hockney has died. He rose to fame in the 1960s, becoming a global art icon with his vibrant, shimmering paintings of Southern California swimming pools. Considered one of the most influential pop artists of his generation, Hockney's masterpieces would later command tens of millions of dollars at auction. His publicist confirmed Hockney died peacefully on Thursday. David Hockney was 88 years old. A somber bulletin on Thai state television announcing the death of Princess Bacha Rakadayapa. The 47-year-old has died after being in a coma for more than 3 years following a sudden illness. The princess was a Cornell-educated lawyer and a former UN Goodwill ambassador who championed major reforms for female prisoners. Thailand is now entering a period of national mourning. Multiple women who are alleged victims in an AI deepfake investigation are pushing back against the Ottawa Police Service's claim of leading a trauma-informed investigation. The women say they feel dismissed, and they're calling on the Ottawa Police to provide more information about the case. Kayla Hounsell has been following the story closely and has the latest.
It was dismissive of the gravity.
She is 49 years old, from Ottawa, and an alleged victim in a deepfake investigation involving her real face in AI-generated scenes of rape and torture. Her identity is protected by a court-ordered publication ban. CBC News has spoken with 14 women in Nova Scotia, Ontario, and Nunavut who say their faces were taken from social media photos and manipulated. Stephen Lowe is facing 79 charges, including harassment, uttering threats, and child sexual abuse and exploitation material. The allegations have not been proven in court. Some of the women say they're angry after the Ottawa Police Service issued a press release saying investigators launched a trauma-informed and victim-centered investigation.
I'd really like to know who informed them, if they think they're trauma-informed.
Inspector Pascal Labine of the Ottawa Police Service says the victim is at the center of every investigative decision. He says the force's victim support unit provides safety planning, emotional support, and referrals to community resources. CBC News has spoken with several women who say they have not yet received any of these supports.
It's very unfortunate that their perspective. I will tell you that our standard is very geared towards that.
The Ottawa woman says to her, trauma-informed means ensuring victims feel secure, safe, and supported, and she doesn't feel any of those things. Kayla Hounsell, CBC News, Ottawa.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. World Report is among the most popular podcasts in Canada. Don't miss out. Follow us wherever you listen. I'm Martina Fitzgerald. This is CBC News.
To Information Radio, CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, everywhere you are on the CBC Listen app. And thank you if you're joining us on YouTube, as we're streaming there as well. It is Friday morning. We made it to the end of the week. Current temperature outside in the sunshine at the moment in downtown Winnipeg is 14 degrees. It has been a bit iffy in terms of the weather. Some sun, we've had some showers, and there's still some weather warnings, in particular in the northern part of the province, for a significant amount of rainfall. Abby will bring us the full forecast in just a moment. We, of course, will also check on your traffic as well. And just ahead, in April, CBC reported the province was looking at restricting social media and AI chatbots for those under 16, and it looks like Ottawa is already starting the wheels in motion. We'll talk about that just ahead. First, let's head to the news center and speak with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, doctors are raising concerns after a highly specialized physician handed in her resignation at the Health Sciences Centre. Dr. Alessandra Cassano-Bailey is only one of a handful of interventional radiologists in this province. Doctors Manitoba says specialists have raised concerns about a lack of resources and staffing. And more could leave the province if nothing changes. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada saying she had been overpaid 20 cents on her CPP disability pension and requested she pay it back. Following an access to information request, CBC learned more than 3,000 similar letters signaling overpayments of under $2 had been sent out between 2024 and 2026. We'll hear more in our next news at 8:30.
We'll be ready. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby Adeyemi has been checking your forecast throughout the morning as we get set to head into the weekend. What can we expect?
Yes, it's a crisp start to your weekend. Northern and the northeastern part of the province really facing this more like serious weather hurdle with rainfall warnings in effect, spreading all the way towards the Churchill region this morning. Well, the south, we started wet. We saw some cloudy conditions. Now we are seeing that transition to a mix of sun and clouds towards a breezy and cooler evening. Here in Winnipeg, we started the day with some showers. Now we're seeing a mix of sun and clouds. Current temperatures hovering near 15 degrees, 14 at the Forks at this time. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds through the morning into the afternoon period as we get to a high of 17. Just a slim chance of showers in the forecast. The winds will remain gusty out of the west today, and then tonight we'll see more like a bit of showers would come our way definitely tonight into the overnight period as we cool to 8 degrees, and that's what we're seeing across the southern regions. So some sunshine spread, highs will be close to 18 degrees, while up north we have active rainfall warnings around the part towards Norway House, Thompson, Churchill, Gillam, Lynn Lake. Highs will be between 7 and 11 degrees. But right now, Churchill, we're just looking at temperatures around, let's just say Churchill is only going to get to 4 degrees today, so it's still pretty cool in that part of the province. To wrap things up, we're looking at 14 right now at the Fox, and we are getting to 17 later.
No big heat coming for the next week or so. Thanks to Abby. Sierra Sanders, the show's director, and also checking traffic.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet on the commuter line so far, Julie. So not hearing from folks out there on the road about any major backups. But according to the Winnipeg Traffic Management Center, eastbound Marion approaching Archibald, there's a stall blocking the eastbound middle lane. So you want to keep left or right to pass there. As well, still seeing some lights out Saskatchewan Avenue and Sturgeon Road there. The lights are blank in all directions. So you want to make sure to treat that as an always stop before proceeding into the intersection. I would say like Winnipeggers are like pros at that now, of recognizing the stoplights when they're not working and four-way stopping it at the intersection. I think we're pros now, considering the backups we've had or the situations we've had this week due to power outages in the city. As well, quickly run through the current highway closures due to some flooding here in Manitoba. So Highway 7, obviously from Highway 67 to Toulon, that is closed due to the flooding in the Stonewall area there. As well, flooding on Highway 10, which we obviously know both directions from Renward to Highway 366. Those are closed there due to the flooding in the Minnetonka area. So you want to keep that in mind there if you are heading out on the highways, but also a couple of things to keep in mind here in the city. We have still a little bit of time left in the show, though, so if there's something that pops up, give me a call on that CBC commuter line. The number is 204-788-3093.
15 minutes after 8 o'clock, Ottawa is looking to force social media services defined as platforms, live streaming services, and adult content services focused on user-shared content to restrict accounts for children under 16. The Safe Social Media Act, known as Bill C-34, was introduced by the minister responsible in Parliament on Wednesday. Mark Miller answered some questions from reporters about, in particular, the thorny issue of one part of it, fining American companies for not abiding by the act.
I'm not going to presume that the administration in the U.S. doesn't want to protect kids. And in fact, we see many acts in Congress that are starting to mirror in a piecemeal fashion some of the most important parts of this bill, which is first and foremost to remove material, but also to prevent the harms from happening in the first place.
The Trump administration has repeatedly warned against foreign countries seeking to regulate U.S. tech companies. They argue that the U.S. should maintain responsibility for governing its sector. How worried are you about retaliation from the Trump administration?
I worry more about kids.
So you're not worried about retaliation?
About kids. I worry about making sure kids are safe in this country.
But what's in the act and will it work? Other countries, notably Australia, have already done it. Is it making a difference in protecting those kids? For more, we're joined by Monique St. Germain. She's the General Counsel for the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, which is based here in Winnipeg. Good morning, Monique. Thank you for doing this.
Morning.
Tell us what's in Bill C-34, the Safe Social Media Act.
Well, it's a pretty complex bill, and it was only released a couple of days ago, so we're still going through it. It has a lot of similarities to the previously introduced Bill C-63, Part 1 of that act, which basically, has a duty to protect children, duty to act responsibly, a requirement for the companies that fall within the scope of the legislation to produce and publish digital safety plans, etc. So it is a positive step in the right direction for Canada.
The bill doesn't say specifically how the platforms will be making sure that the users are of the appropriate age. Is that concerning to the organization?
Well, no, because technology is evolving all the time. And the whole issue of verifying the age of users is something that is underway in several countries at this point in time. So when we have legislation, and remember, this bill was just introduced in Parliament, so it has to go through the whole committee process and everything else. The way that the Act is structured is that there will be a regulatory process where by regulation, certain things will be defined. By the time we get to the regulation standpoint, there should be a sort of some good guidance that comes through in that process in terms of how to do this and maintain privacy as best as possible. Also, the Act includes several provisions that are deliberately included clearly to ensure that that there's very least privacy invasive measures are used.
How does this act compare to ones already in place in countries, for example, like Australia?
So there's broad similarities. Most countries that have gone to try and regulate in this space have some version of a duty to act responsibly. They might term it differently, but the idea is that you impose a duty on these companies to essentially behave as you would expect any company to behave and not harm the users. There's a requirement for them to assess the risk on their platforms and then to take steps to mitigate those risks. So those are basic online safety expectations that any Canadian would expect that a company would be taking. But the reality is we have not actually imposed any obligations of that nature on them to date.
What do we know about the experience in Australia? Are kids getting around these regulations?
Well, sure. Some kids are going to be getting around regulations, but I mean, some kids get around liquor bans also. So, just because some kids are able to circumvent doesn't mean that it's not worth doing. What we know now is that the evidence is mounting and is quite clear that there are significant harms happening to children as a result of this essentially mass human experiment that we've been doing for the last 20 years. And it's time to pull the emergency brake. And that's what is happening in terms of this legislation. What we are doing is essentially putting a social media pause in place and allowing children to get through developmental phases before they are exposed to these types of platforms and the type of content that is available on them.
CBC's reported this is the latest attempt, obviously, by the Liberals to create some form of law to hopefully address online harm. So if passed, it would also put responsibility on websites to protect kids from harmful content, including things like cyberbullying. What difference would that be, putting the responsibility on those platforms?
Well, the reality is there has to be a lot of different entities and people in this equation. So up to now, it's essentially been up to parents to handle and manage all of this. And that's created a very unbalanced playing field. The companies themselves have to take some responsibility for the types of things that happen on their platforms. They know these things happen and they have the tools and the ability to take steps to mitigate. And that's exactly what this is all about.
Premier Wab Kinew announced in April Manitoba would ban social media use and AI chatbots for kids under 16. We know that the federal government has tried this before and it is now undertaken and introduced this legislation. So how could a provincial ban and a federal ban work together? Would one supersede the other?
Well, no. So provincial responsibility and federal responsibility is different. So in the provincial sphere, provinces are responsible for education. So particularly in educational environments like schools, the province can take real and meaningful steps to limit the use of certain platforms, to limit access to certain sites, etc. That's something that the province is absolutely empowered to do.
Is there some piece, and I've sort of likened it to graduated licensing. When I turned 16, they didn't just hand me the driver's license because I was 16 and I didn't get behind the wheel of a very powerful vehicle and drive. I was given the tools and the training. I took driver's ed and all of those steps. And at the time there wasn't graduated licensing, but now there is. Is there an education piece that should be undertaken? I don't know if it's within the school system to educate the kids before they get online so that when they do, it's not like log on and the Wild West is yours to discover.
Yes, absolutely. So prevention and education is a core part of our organization's philosophy towards all of this and has been from the beginning. So education and prevention education is not enough, though. So we need all the tools in the toolbox to help protect children. But education is absolutely a fundamental component of all of this. And it's not just the education about sort of what these sites what happens on these sites and how to behave and, what's okay to post and what's not. It's not just about that, but it's also about respecting people's privacy and recognizing the harm that can occur when things are posted. And if we delay sort of the ability for kids to participate in some of these very open online spaces to a point where the brain is a bit more mature, where the children have more information and knowledge about how to manage on these sites and also how to report when something is wrong, how to block users, etc. That is all fundamental and important in this space.
The bill has been met with some opposition. The Conservatives suggesting that the criminal code provisions would perhaps have a chilling effect on free speech. Is there some concern to be had there?
So I hadn't heard that. I didn't see criminal code provisions in this bill. There was in the last bill, Bill C-63. So if there is in this bill, that's not something I've seen yet. So I will certainly look into that.
Thank you.
But one of the things that they have done is put in some duties as it relates to chatbots and reporting to police when things hit certain thresholds, but that is also subject to a regulatory process. So if that's what's being referred to, I believe that is going to be worked through in the regulatory process, which is where it should be worked through.
The big fines that are proposed for the companies not complying, that could be, I don't know how easy to collect, but could that make a big impact? I mean, if you hit the bottom line, maybe they'll comply?
Well, so it'll matter for some companies for sure. And, we're dealing with companies in some of these spaces that have a lot of money, more money than some governments do. So, fines are only one part of the equation, but it is an important marker to put down that if you violate our laws, there is going to be a penalty, and the penalties themselves are not insignificant. So we'll see what happens.
No, they're not insignificant. $10 million or 3% of their global revenue, whichever is greater. Lots still to come to this. As you referred to, it's got many, many steps to go before this becomes legislation. So no doubt as people have time to go through the paperwork, we'll certainly learn a lot more. But I really appreciate you joining us this morning and sharing some of those insights. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Monique St. Germain is the General Counsel for the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, which is based here in Winnipeg. The Polaris Prize long list is out. It's awarded to the Best Canadian Album of the Year, and Manitoba is representing. Begonia, Jaywood, Propagandhi, and Boy Golden have all made the list. So let's listen to one of those artists, Boy Golden with Suffer, 89.3 FM.
Every day is a masterpiece laid out on the street in front of me. Every day another tragedy laid out on the street in front of me. Prices go up and they don't come down. Cost $40 just to hang around. I know people sleeping on the ground. Prices go up and they don't come down. I wanna know where my money went. I want a new president. Wanna believe that God is benevolent. I wanna know where my money went. Yeah. We all suffer under the cover of the night. Under the cover of the night. We all suffer. Yeah. Painkillers and nicotine. White bread and trashy TV. You can drink yourself half asleep. Just don't do it in front of me. Bad actors in politics. I can't take too much more of this. I'm looking for a more permanent fix, like a deep dark hole in a ditch. We sit in our living room,
Manitoba's Boy Golden with Suffer 89.3 FM. He, along with Begonia J. Wood and Propagandy, been named to the Polaris Prize long list. The short list comes out July 9th. It is a big year for the Red River exhibition. The X turns 75 this year on the provincial call-in today with guest host Bruce Layden. We want to walk down memory lane with you. What is your fondest memory of the X? What is your favorite food or ride or thing about the X? Give us a call or text us on the provincial call-in. It comes your way after 12:15. The CBC News starts now.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's a beautiful looking morning. Partly cloudy. 14 degrees right now. We're not warming up a whole lot for your Friday. Mix of sun and clouds, a strong west wind, and a high of 17. Documents obtained by CBC show before a Winnipeg woman died after giving plasma, the machine used on her had issued 5 alerts. One of those alerts meant the plasma collection should have been terminated, but Health Canada inspectors say that didn't happen. 22-year-old Rodiette Alabadi died in October 2025 after giving plasma at the Griffles Collection Centre on Taylor Avenue. Dr. John Eunice, the province's chief medical examiner, says she died from an enlarged heart.
It's certainly possible that some of these subtle changes that ordinarily wouldn't have been harmful could have been harmful in her. But there's just no way to prove it at post-mortem examination.
Health Canada finished its investigation in March, finding no connection between the death and the donation process. Doctors are raising concerns after a highly specialized physician handed in her resignation at the Health Sciences Centre. Dr. Alessandra Cassano-Bailey is only one of a handful of interventional radiologists in this province. The specialists use things like X-rays and MRIs to perform procedures to help critically ill patients, including in complex cancer cases. An internal letter signed by 14 physicians and staff says the departure will be a huge loss for patients. Hepatologist Dr. Kelly Kaita signed the letter.
Without her, we're left having to deal with probably referring patients out of province or out of country for the procedures. We're also left with fewer and fewer interventional radiologists who themselves are really beginning to burn out.
Doctors Manitoba says specialists have raised concerns about a lack of resources and staffing, and more could leave if nothing changes. Manitoba Hydro's restored most power outages caused by this week's violent thunderstorms. The utility says by last night, a total of 245 customers were still in the dark, including about 100 in Winnipeg. Crews expect to reach those today. A Winnipeg woman is frustrated and concerned after receiving a letter from Service Canada saying she had been overpaid 20 cents on her CPP disability pension and asked that she pay it back. Following an access to information request, CBC learned more than 3,000 similar letters signaling overpayments of under $2 had been sent out between 2024 and 2026. Nicolas Gagnon of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation is not impressed.
It is a clear waste of taxpayers' dollars. If the government is paying more to pay for the stamps on the letter than for the amount that is recovered through that letter, there's clearly a waste of dollars and a waste of government resources as well.
According to the Federal Financial Administration Act, Employment and Social Development Canada may write off overpayments of 99 cents or less for a select number of programs, including CPP. In an email to Radio Canada, the department indicated they were updating how small overpayments are processed. Winkler's first Pride event is this weekend. It starts tomorrow morning in church. Kevin Drudge is pastor at Covenant Mennonite Church.
In the gospel story, we find Jesus welcoming all sorts of people, especially people who were marginalized and silenced by the power structures of the day.
Winkler's first Pride event continues tomorrow at Triple E Main Stage in Winkler Parkland. And it is Canada's first time hosting the World Cup. Canadian alternative rock royalty Big Wreck headlining the opening day of festivities as Canada officially welcomes the FIFA World Cup. Fan villages and viewing sites are opening across the country to coincide with our national team's first match today against Bosnia-Herzegovina. That begins at 2 o'clock Central Time. Organizers nationwide promise elaborate big screen broadcasts, food festivals, and live concerts throughout the 5-week event. You can find more news throughout the day. All you have to do is head to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks for the day, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells at the CBC News Center. Sierra Sanders, our show's director, and monitoring traffic.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet on the commuter line this morning, Julie, but I did just get a call there just before we got into the news from Dawn, talking about Chief Peguis and Lajimodiere. There's a multi-vehicle collision that is blocking the southbound median lane and northbound turn lane there. Emergency crews are on the scene there, but you're going to want to keep right to pass there. As well, eastbound Marion approaching Archibald, still seeing that stall blocking the eastbound middle lane. As well, lights are still out as Saskatchewan Avenue and Sturgeon Road, so you want to treat that as a 4-way stop. As well, we're still seeing closures on Highway 10 due to some flooding there, so that's from Renware to Highway 366, all closed there, all lanes, I should say. And then finally, Highway 7 from Highway 67 to Toulon are closed there.
Thank you, Sierra. Abby, final look at weather.
It's beautiful outside, I'll tell you. However, we still have rainfall warning across the northern part of the province. We're expecting heavy rainfall into Sunday, so be prepared for that. Some floodings will be coming your way. But southern Manitoba, we're seeing mild conditions, 12 to 14 degrees. That's what we're seeing at this time. A mix of sun and clouds, showers, breezy conditions, highs near 18 for most of the regions. But up north, much cooler, 1 to 8, and we'll see highs between 4 and 11. Winnipeg, we are at 14, heading to 17 under some breezy conditions.
Thank you, Abby Adeyemi, our tech producer today. Darren Morash looking after our live stream on YouTube. Sierra Sanders, our show's director, and also looking after traffic today. Other associate producers, Corey Funk, Chidi Akuma, Marshall Hodgsons, Jenica Sewell, Dylan Longhurst, Chloe Friesen, Sophia Peralta Barone, and Emily Enns. And also my fellow hosts, Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dowhouse, Faith Fundal, Bruce Layden, and Marcy Marcusa. I'm Julie Buckingham. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being here. Be well.